This is going to be the rapidest of reviews and also the longest. Take one. Clapped on my...
It syncs up automatically.
3, 2, 1, bro.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mike.
I'm Nick.
We always talk about rapid reviews. We don't have time, but this time we really don't have time.
We really don't have
time. Because we're reviewing
time.
our entire board game collection and then some.
Our whole board game collection and then some. So if you didn't know, we just did a marathon. We'll link for it up here. We're going to keep talking about it because we think it's awesome. We played our entire board game collection, 203 games in 1 week. And so a lot of the comments we got were like, wow, the next rapid reviews rapid reviews is where we review everything we played in the previous month. The problem is we played our entire collection in the previous month. So they're like, that's going to be a crazy rapid reviews.
And then we kept playing more games.
And then we kept playing more games after that. So we're going to be reviewing every game we played in the marathon, which is 203 games. And then all the other games we played in December because we did the marathon the first week of December. And we haven't stopped playing games. So it's going to be, I'm not entirely sure how many, a lot though.
It's going to be a lot. It's going to be 220 games.
220, 230 games or so right now. So it's going to be quick. It's gonna be. We're not going to talk about the games very much because we have a lot to get through.
So yeah, this won't be the most full, in-depth reviews, but it's going to give you a snapshot of each game as we go and what we think about it.
And watch a marathon. You can watch a very quick playthrough of all those games because they're in time lapses.
The first thing, Nick, Five or Findin'. This is a sort of seeking game where you have a board and you're going to roll some dice, which are going to give you colors and symbols, and you have to find those symbols in an arrangement that will match a shape that you can draw, and you'll draw that shape. There's kind of a speed way to play where you try to find a certain that group of symbols 5 times, or you can play this puzzle mode where you can do different shapes. You can only do each shape 1 time.
Yeah.
And you're doing this ever shrinking board. Five or Findin'. I love it. What's next?
Next up was Seven Wonders Duel. Seven Wonders Duel is a 2-player version of Seven Wonders by Bruno Catala. It's really, really good. This is a game I always feel like I don't like as much as I do, but I actually do like it a lot. But it's Seven Wonders-y, but it's a lot more strategic, a lot deeper game. It's one of those sequels that's actually a lot deeper than the original game, and it's really, really good. Love Seven Wonders Duel, yeah.
We played Abandon All Artichokes, which is a deck wrecking game where you start off with a hand of 10 artichokes or a deck of 10 artichokes, and you're trying to eventually have a turn where you draw back up to your hand limit and have no artichokes to win.
Yeah.
And there's all these different vegetables that help you compost your artichokes, pass things to players, mess with each other's cards and stuff. It's a really fun kind of super cute, light, quick, mean deck building game or deck wrecking game. Love Abandon All Artichokes.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Next we have Abomination Heir of Frankenstein. This is a game that we've kind of played a couple times now.
It's almost ruined our marathon.
We've held on to it. It almost ruined our marathon. It was a tough one where we played this game during our marathon. We didn't know it quite as well as we thought we did. But nonetheless, this is a game, I'm not entirely sure how much I like it. It's got worker placement, it's got a really cool theme, it's done very well, but I don't know, it's something that always keeps me from enjoying it. You're essentially building Frankenstein a new friend, essentially, and you're getting body parts from different parts of the city and stuff like that, and then trying to make them come alive. It's cool. We've played a couple times. I'm still like, on it.
I think it's too big and convoluted for its own good. It's got like one of the coolest, darkest, most interesting themes, and I still don't think it's a game for us.
Yeah.
Not sure.
Yeah.
Not sure. But we did play Abyss. That's a game we've known and loved for a long time. Fairly simple game, ultimately, where you're trying to incur the favor of all these lords. Yeah. You're trying to get their influence and stuff, which is going to be kind of a set collection element. Each lord will need a certain type or types of these cards. There's like crabs and shellfish and jellyfish and things like that. The different factions, as they were. And you're trying to get to recruit these lords and get some powers and stuff. You can fight monsters, especially with the expansion, which we didn't play. But Abyss is just one that's like continually charmed us. We've enjoyed it for a long time now, and there's pearls in it. How fun.
Yeah. And one thing about the marathon is we didn't play with really any expansions for the most part.
And I would with that play with the Leviathan expansion. I don't really want to play base game anymore, but for the sake of time, we play base game only.
Indeed. We also played Adventureland, which is a great hobby game in their family game lines, which they are really, really good, but a lot of those games kind of go under the radar. None more so than Adventureland, which is a great game where you're essentially doing, there's like a couple different scenarios you can do, and you're doing different stuff for each one. But basically you have 10 workers on a big grid, and your workers can always move right and down, but they can never move left or up. So you're basically trying to get resources, fight these monsters, get points, do all this kind of stuff, but you can only ever move like this. And so you have to constantly figure out, oh, if I put this person all the way down, they can never go up. And so it's a really weird balance, but it works really, really well. And it's a game that no one really talks about, and it's really, really good. And so you should try it.
We played Air, Land, and Sea, which is a small little card game for 2 players where you have kind of 3 theaters of war and I think World War II. So you have Air, Land, and Sea. And you're playing out cards that will pertain to certain theaters of war. And you're basically trying to have the most strength in each theater to kind of claim it. And so to win a battle, I would take 2 out of the 3 theaters. But what you can do, this game is all about strategic retreatery. If you can retreat early, your opponent will get some points. But if I go all the way to the end and then lose, your opponent gets a lot of points. So you got to know when to pull out if you think you're like, this ain't going to work for me. And then you play back and forth until someone gets, I think, 12 points. Really cool, interesting, very small game.
Yeah, really,
but pretty
really
tactical, air, land, and sea.
We played the American Idol collectible card game, which
game.
someone gave to us to play on our Twitch stream, and we just kept it because it's really small and we just think it's funny to have. Yeah. But that meant we had to play it, and it's not good. We had to get to 200
games somehow.
We had to get 200. We had to pad out the list a little bit. It's not good. It's a collected card game. It's terrible.
Though.
It is a game.
There is a game in there.
It is a game. It's done by Stefan Feld, I think, and so huge American Idol fan. Not good. Don't try it.
Don't try it. It's really bad. What else we got? We got Animal Upon Animal Dinosaur Edition. There's all sorts of Animal Upon Animal versions now. This is another game. They're all game. It's a stacking game where you roll a die and that'll dictate you have to put 1 or 2 or something of your animals onto this ever-growing stack of animals. There's Animal Upon Animal. There's times where it's like, hey, roll a die and like you have to place my meeple for me, and if stuff falls, you have to collect things. You're just trying to get rid of all your pieces. And if you make mistakes, you have to collect more pieces. Super fun, super silly. You're building dinosaurs up on top of rocks and stuff. It's great. Animal Upon Animal, all of them are fantastic.
Yeah. Next game we played was Arboretum. Arboretum. The cool thing is we're actually kind of going in the same order we did during our marathon.
We did go mostly alphabetical.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. I just realized that. So we played Arboretum. Arboretum is a small card game where you are building out an arboretum. An arboretum is a big group of trees, essentially, and you're trying to build a very pretty one in these nice, really nice paths, but you have to do it in a very crunchy way where you essentially want to build the best path you can out of a certain amount of trees, but unless you have that more of that tree left in your hand at the end of the game, you can't score that tree. And so it's this weird back and forth of like trying to
play it all, but not play any of it.
Score as many points while still maintaining the majority of the trees in your hands. It's very, very crunchy. Really destroys your brain. Very pretty, very good game.
We played Architects of the West Kingdom, which is the first in the West Kingdom trilogy of games. This is a worker placement game, a worker investment game. So we say you have this whole big pool of workers, and the more workers you put to the same spot, the better that action becomes. You can collect more and more wood in the forest and stuff like that. You're trying to collect resources, get some associates and things that will help you build out buildings and stuff. You want to build, you can work on a cathedral. And it's a really cool game that I had kind of cooled on because I'm really quite bad at it. Because I think I start overthinking.
That can make you cool on games. You know, if you just suck at them.
And for whatever reason, my brain can't crack it. And so when we played it during the marathon, we actually played it fast enough that I wasn't overthinking. And I realized like, oh, just keep it simple.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. There's a great expansion for it. And I really want to play it again. The whole West Kingdom trilogy is great. We will talk about all 3
It's
today.
the simplest of the West Kingdom trilogy, but I don't think that's a bad thing.
No.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
The other 2 are heavier.
Yeah.
And Architects is not
it's
light,
nice,
but it's accessible. So Architects of the West Kingdom is great.
Next game we played was Heir, which is a great kind of Tetris polyomino type game that really feels like Tetris, where you're building out a dope block party, which is in Heir in Portugal.
Yeah. Bunch of people twisting up.
A lot of cool. And so you have all these different guests that are coming to your block party, but they come into your top down, and they're coming down. You can't turn them when they come down. And so you're basically trying to essentially build a Tetris board of people coming to your block party. Really fun, really light, but this is a game that is just charming and very, very simple. Works really well. Great to like teach new people.
Yeah.
It's just awesome. And it's like, hey, you know Tetris? It's kind of like Tetris. Yeah. And it's a great way to start into people.
It's a great in for people.
Yeah, it's really great. Heir is wonderful.
We played Baron Park, which is another polyomino twist 'em up, and now you're twisty bears, and you're building a bear zoo. And it's a Phil Walker Harding game. Praise be.
Praise be.
We gotta take the time to say praise be still. We got to go. Baron Park is fantastic, where it's a game where you're placing down these different elements of your zoo, mostly like animal enclosures, and whatever you cover up, there's a bunch of icons on these boards. You're going to get more tiles to place. You're going to get more boards to expand your zoo, and you're trying to complete all 4 boards of your zoo to end the game. You get statues and stuff. It's super simple, accessible, fun, and puzzly. Probably Phil Walker Harding's my favorite. I don't know about that. It's great. Baron Park always makes me happy.
Yeah, it's really, really good. This game we played was Bargain Quest, which we hadn't played for a while. This is a game that I'm not entirely sure how much I like.
I think it's close to being a good game.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of how I feel. But this is essentially a game where you are running a shop. You are a shop owner.
Game, yeah.
And it's a drafting game. And you essentially are going to be selling stuff for your shop. There's going to be heroes that are coming out. And they will essentially, you're trying to get them to come to your shop to buy stuff. And then those heroes will go out and try and fight monsters
for their quest.
Yeah, exactly. And you're essentially just trying to sell them the most stuff. You get bonuses if they survive the fight with the monster, which I think is funny. I love it. I love the look of the game. I love the diversity of the game. I think it's a great idea, cool idea for a game where you're like, no, you're the shop owner. You're not the one fighting. You're the one selling the stuff. I think it's such a cool take. For some reason, it doesn't click with me. I don't know why though. We played a couple times, and each time I've always been like, eh.
I think we need to play again because it's one of those. It's a drafting game. You need a lot of people. And we played 2-player, which is fine, but it's not ideal for that type of game. But yeah, it just hasn't quite clicked yet.
Yeah, but it's still good. It is good, though.
The game that always clicks for us is Baseball Highlights 2045, a game which simulates baseball, but with robots, because robots make everything more fun. And this is a deck-building kind of tactical game, 2-player game, where you're trying to win games of baseball. You're playing mini-series of baseball or World Series. And if I play a card that might threaten a certain amount of offense, it might react and do some defense to Nick, because I'm playing a card to represent a whole inning.
Yeah.
And you're playing a card to represent a whole inning. So you're always reacting to what your opponent's doing while threatening your own stuff. And like, how much do I let Nick get away with? Because then I can play my big card later. Yeah. It's this really tactical kind of outwitting, outfoxing your opponent. Really fantastic game. Baseball Highlights. We also love baseball, so that helps.
It helps. If you like baseball, it helps. But it's very good even if you don't.
Yes.
Next game we played was The Bloody Inn. The Bloody Inn is a weird, macabre little game where you essentially are a family of people who own an inn, and you realize that it's more profitable for you to kill some of your guests and just take their money than to have them stay in your inn. So you're essentially trying to bribe other guests to like get in on the killing and kill people, but then you got to bury people before the cops show up and stuff. It's really weird. It's got really, really great art by Weberson Santiago, who's one of my favorite board game artists. Yeah. Really just strange game, but that works really, really well. And it's actually a very nice, tight balancing game of balancing crime, essentially. And it works really, really well.
It's card management.
Yeah, and I've always been incredibly charmed by this game, and it continues to do so. Bloody Inn's great.
Been in our life for a long time.
Yeah, it has been for a minute now.
We got Blue Lagoon, which is a blue-orange game that it's a Reiner Knizia game where you're placing out these little tokens onto different hexes around the board, and you're doing this to grab resources which are used for set collection. You're trying to get to all these different islands. It's kind of Moana themed.
Without officially being Moana themed.
You know, we are explorers who find these islands and settle and stuff. And so you play two rounds, but in the first round you place out these settlements. In the second round you begin from those settlements. In the first round you're kind of coming to the islands to begin. And it's a super simple abstract game that looks beautiful. And there's all the set collection, all these points up for grabs because you want to basically build a long chain of stuff. You want to get to all the islands. You want a majority on those islands, but you also want to get set collection. So it's like a million ways to get points. They're all great, and it's really fun to 2-player because you end up with a bajillion points, which is very satisfying.
Very, very fun.
Blue Lagoon is really good.
Yeah, great game. Next game we played was But Wait, There's More, which is a great little party game that you technically play with 2 players, although you never should. But we're like, this will be fun to do on stream, so we played this one on stream. But it's a pitching game where you have a product, so like toothpaste, and then you have some kind of really weird feature of it, and you have to start pitching. You have 45 seconds to pitch.
Like an infomercial spiel.
Yeah, exactly. And then halfway through your pitch, you have to say, but wait, there's more. And then you have to flip over another feature that you haven't seen before, and you have to immediately continue pitching with that. It's real weird. It's really silly. We played it very, very, very fast because we just played like one round of it. But it is, if you have the right group of people who like improv games, because it's ultimately just an improv game, it's really, really, like we have a lot of actor friends and stuff like that, and Mike's an actor, so like it's fun to play with them. It's just a fun little game.
Yeah, it's just a good time. We also play Cacao, Praise Be, Phil Walker Harding. This is a tile laying game where you're going to be placing you have these tiles that have your workers on them, and you're going to be placing them next to jungle tiles, and then jungle tiles will have different things they can do, like you can get cocoa, you can sell cocoa at markets, money is points. You can put workers in front of temples, which is endgame scoring. You can move up a river, and it's all about building out this checkerboard pattern of workers in jungles, but there's this kind of delayed effect where if I place a worker and they're on the edges of my tile, if I have a tile edge that has some workers but there's nothing touching it, nothing's going to happen, but later a jungle tile might get placed down there either on my turn or one of Nick's turns in the future, and then it'll trigger. So there's like these delayed actions.
Really cool.
Which is a really interesting, gives it just enough puzzliness that you can kind of get a little bit clever, which is what Phil Walker Harding does so well. You can be a little bit puzzly, a little bit clever, but super accessible game. It's just getting cocoa, trading cocoa, getting money, getting out.
Yeah.
Cacao, super good.
A new game that we played was a game called Calico. Talk about puzzliness, the games that are very simple and puzzly. Calico is one of those. This is a game where you are making a quilt. All quilting games and board games are brutal games, apparently. As we all know, the quilting world is. And so you're essentially building a quilt, and you're essentially trying to match patterns and or match colors. If you match colors 3 colors in a row, you'll get a button of that color. Buttons are worth points. If you match a certain amount of patterns in a row, you'll attract a kitty to come lay onto your quilt. Kitty's worth points. And that's all you're trying to do, but just trying to figure out where to put stuff, as every color in the game has multiple patterns, stuff like that on it. So it just gets very, very confusing of where to put stuff.
You get boxed in.
Very, very crunchy, super simple, quick game. Calico is great.
Calico is great. Also, Carcassonne is great. The classic, the best gateway game of all time. I think it's just so great. It's a tile laying game where you are building out different features on the land. There's roads, there's cities you can build. You can surround cloisters and stuff.
Hilarious.
And you can put these meeples down to basically claim different things. Like, I'm gonna claim this road, and when this road gets complete, I'll get a point for every tile that road is on. Or I can build this big city and I'll get a bunch of points when the city is complete. And that's all it is you gotta place it down, and it's so great because you have to place it in such a way that the landscape makes sense. If you have the edge of the tile has this big city, you can't put it up against a field. That wouldn't be reality,
People
right?
will revolt.
So you have to make it make sense. Grass has to touch grass, road has to connect to road and all that. So it's really easy to explain because people get that. And then you put the meeples down, you can score these big points and stuff. It's just a great game. Always love it. That is Carcassonne.
Yeah, Carcassonne is great. We also played Carpe Diem, the prettiest game on the market today. Carpe Diem is honestly a great Stefan Feld game that looks very bad, but ultimately is a great game. But this is a great... you have this weird like wagon wheel with different tiles around it. You basically have your person, I don't know what they're called, the counselor or whatever. Doesn't matter. And basically can go across. You're basically going around this wagon wheel, it's always going straight across.
You're worshiping Satan.
Yeah, you're worshiping Satan basically. And you're getting different buildings. The different buildings will give you stuff like bread and coins, or you can make a grape field and get grapes. You turn those to get points and stuff like that. It's very, very cool. I do actually like the way you get tiles, the way you place them. It's just tile placement. It's pretty simple, but it's still good because tile placement's great. But the scoring system is very, very interesting in this game. It's ultimately a very, very good game that gets hampered because it looks very, very bad. But nonetheless, we keep keeping it because I really like Carpe Diem. It just looks very bad.
Yeah, we played Cartographers, which looks really good. We played all of our roll and write games actually at the start of our marathon, which was a mistake, we realized, the way we did it. We played Cartographers, which is a great game where you're making a map in a magical land. So this map will have forests and water and farms and monsters because magicalness.
Monsters!
And you're just trying to build it to satisfy these different scoring conditions that'll change from game to game. And it's cool because in each round, you have 2 of the scoring conditions are present. So you're going to score A and B in the first round, then B and C, then C and D, then D and A. So every of the types of scoring things you have 2 cracks at.
Yeah.
And you can kind of time stuff up and you're just trying to build the lands and stuff basically to satisfy those, but you're flipping over cards which dictate what you can place in your map. And you can put it anywhere, but based off what needs to be adjacent to what to score. So because of those scoring cards, this game basically has, for me, infinite replayability. I've played it so many times. It's just great. Great flip and fill, the best one out there.
It just really, really works. Okay. The next game is one of our biggest evangelism games, a game that we talk and try to evangelize the most, and that is Castell. Castell is a really wonderful game, criminally underrated. But this is a game where you are a group of Castellers, and you are going around
building human pyramids.
Catalonia in Spain, building human periods. Castellers are the people who build those human pyramids in places like Barcelona and stuff like that. So you're basically a troop of them going around grabbing more and more Castellers and trying to build the biggest, coolest pyramid based off of different parameters that the city wants these kinds of people in their pyramid, yada, yada, yada. But it's crunchy, it's hard to do everything you want to, but it works so well, it sings so well. There's all these like limitations that you then get to break, and it's really, really wonderful, and we absolutely adore it.
Yeah.
And Castell's great.
We played Castles of Burgundy, another Stefan Feld classic. This is a great game where you are in France and you're building out your province. So you're getting these tiles from the board, and everything's dictated by your dice roll. You're gonna roll 2 dice. And the numbers on them will allow you to take from this depot, essentially, the number 2 depot. And then you can pull this tile onto your board, which then you have to place in your province, which again, all have numbers on them. So you have to place it in a number that makes sense, in a zone that makes sense for the type, if it's a building or if it's your farms or your ships and things. So you have to make it all make sense. And then you have all these ways to manipulate your dice rolls and stuff for these workers and things. But it's just a really cool classic game, point salad, where you can do basically a million different things to score points. You can get buildings which will let you get bonuses and break rules. There's technologies, there's ships which help you get goods, which you can then sell for points. All these different things to kind of explore. Castle Burgundy is fantastic.
It's good. We also played Castle Burgundy, the card game.
Hey.
And we would have played Castle Burgundy, the dice game, but somehow we lost it. I don't know. We used to have all 3.
It's a small box.
But Castle Burgundy, the card game, while it's a bit of a table hog for how small of a game it is, it's actually really, really fun. And a lot like Castle Burgundy, the dice game, feels a lot like Castles of Burgundy, but it's definitely a different game.
It's got a couple different things about it, yeah.
But essentially you're turning in cards and you're essentially trying to get sets and stuff like that of cards, but the cards are all the same. You're getting like animal sets. You're getting, there's like castles. It's all the same
You get
stuff.
like little sets of threes.
Yeah, you're trying to get little sets of threes, and it's a great little interpretation of it. It's just a bit of a table hog is the only thing I can say against it, but it's good. It's fun, and we hadn't played it in a long time.
Been
a long time. So this one we basically had to completely relearn on set. There's only, I think it's one of our moving time lapse we played. And this game is on the table way too long because it's like we're sitting here trying to learn the game as we were playing it during the marathon, which is never a good thing. But nonetheless, it's still really fun.
A game we played was Cat Cafe, which is another little roll and write where you were building out these little cat towers with different features that cats would love. So you have different toys. There's bowls of food. There's a little cat house and stuff like that. Mice. And all of them will score differently and do different things. And so the cool thing is it's a dice drafting game where there'll be a pool of dice based on the amount of players. You'll take a die and then there'll be one die that's left over. And those are going to be your 2 dice that you use. And you can either choose to use one number for the level that your feature is going to go on the tower, and the other one is going to be the type of feature. So if I use a 5, it's going to be this, but it'll be on level 1. Or I can use a level 1, which is the cat house, will be on level 5 of the tower. Yeah. So it's kind of an interesting thing where you can just choose those different things, and you're going to want stuff to be adjacent to things. Cute little roll and write that I quite like, and it was cheap, so I was happy to buy it.
We played Caverna Cave vs. Cave, which is a 2-player version of Caverna. Caverna is going to show up very, very soon. But no, it's Caverna Cave vs. Cave is a great 2-player adaptation of Caverna, where one thing I like about Caverna is like you get more actions as the game goes along. More actions get turned over, and that's how it is in this game. Every round, a new action tile gets turned over, and essentially you're just trying to build out your cave. That's it. There's not really any other animals or anything like that, and it's a nice little kind of tactical back and forth 2-player game that works really, really well. Still feels like it's in that universe. And I really, really like Cave vs. Cave a lot. If I want like a Caverna feel, but I don't want the Caverna feel, just knock out some Cave vs. Cave.
Yeah, but if you do want the Caverna feel, we also played Caverna, which is really quite good. It's a game where you're trying to build out both a farm and your cave, because you're cave farmers. And you can do this by kind of going to varying worker spaces that kind of get revealed each round. There'll be a new worker space you can go, so you can start getting more dwarves and stuff like that. You can get different animals, build fences. You can have more animals, which are all points, and you can explore your cave and start getting rubies, which are kind of wild things, and they're also points. And there's a million things to do. It's one that's kind of tight and tough because there's a lot of stuff you can do. You kind of have to do everything. Yeah. Because there's a lot of negatives, like Uwe Rosenberg. There's a lot of things that will lose you points at the end of the game if you haven't done. So it's a tough one in that regard, but it's nice because it reveals one round. It reveals one action. So you don't have to deal with 50 different things at once. You get one at a time. It's really great. And a lot of the actions are really straightforward. Yes. It's like weirdly straightforward. It's like, oh, here, get the wood that's right there.
Some people say it's like almost like a gateway worker placement game. And I'm like, I wouldn't go that far.
Because there's so much stuff to do.
Well, you can teach it as you go.
The types of spaces are super simple.
It's like, go here, get wood. Go here, get
Everything
pigs.
is very clear what it does. And so it's kind of brilliant for being such a heavy game. Also being accessible, Caverna.
Yeah, it's good. Next game we played was Chai. Chai is a great game. We're drinking coffee, but drinking tea,
I've never drank tea while playing Chai.
That is true.
Coffee almost every time.
Almost every single time. That's so true. But nonetheless, Chai is a great game where you have a little tea shop and you're essentially trying to get different types of tea and different types of pantry items like milk, sugar, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And you're essentially trying to fulfill orders. That's all it is. You have specific people who are specific to you. That you have different color. Like Mike is specializing in like white tea. I specialize in green tea. So I have people who want green tea, people who want white tea, and you can do each other's orders, but you have to pay them a little bit to do it. Right. And it's just simple, but it's really, really good. It's got gorgeous production. We do have the deluxe copy because it's ridiculous. But I tell you,
I wanted it to be maximum chunk.
And as Mike said, I think Mike did a metagame minute, which we did. It'll pop up over here about it. Talking about like it makes new board gamers, because this is a game that's very easy, very gateway level. But man, the production and the cool theme and the way it looks,
pull people in.
It could be like, whoa, I didn't know board games could be like this. This is a great game for pulling in new people. And as much as like I love Carcassonne, I think it's a very cool game. It's not like a flashy game.
It's sexy.
Yeah, it ain't sexy, but it's great. Chai is sexy and it's great. And it's easy. It's really, really good.
Yeah. We played Chimera Station, which is a weird little game.
Good, dude.
It is really good. It's a game where you are alien workers building on a space station, and you are modifying your workforce. Your little workers can actually separate, and you can add body parts to them, which will give them different perks, like being able to push other people out and take their space, gaining extra resources, gaining victory points when you visit places, stuff like that. And so it's just a really weird game where you need to get money and food and stuff to build things and whatnot, but then you want to modify your people to get these cool bonuses. And if they have 2 crab claws and they like can't ever be moved by other people, so they're super tough.
Super crabs, yeah.
There's all these weird perks, and so it's all about a worker modification game, which is a really different kind of thing. And other than that, it's just straight worker placement, but just a really weird,
but also with a growing board too.
The growing board, because there's more and more action spaces as you build out the space station. There's more spaces to go to, which give you new options. There's asymmetric sides you can play, which is really fun because just ever so slight, it gives you a little bit more to think about. Chimera Station is just a cool, odd game.
Yeah, it is. It's exactly that.
Its own deal.
Next game we played was Circadian's First Light, which is a Garphill game. And this is a game, I don't know how to really describe this game. It does not feel like any other game out there in terms of like, you essentially are...
It's a dice allocation.
You are essentially sending ships out to go get more stuff. There's like a big planet. You can move your rover around to get more like water and algae and power and stuff like that. You have these like other people, other like essentially races of aliens that you're trading with. And it's all very friendly, which I like. It's not like we're going to go kill them.
You're like on a new planet and you're trying to establish
you're like, hey man, you want to trade some algae? Yeah, cool. It's very, very nice. I don't think I like the game though. I've realized this recently. The more times I've played it, I've cooled on it every single time we've played it. And during the marathon, I think I officially was like, I don't think I like this game very much. It's unfortunate because I really want to, but for whatever reason, I just can't get into it. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's an odd one. Yeah. I don't quite know either because there's a lot of things that
I want to like it really bad.
There's like really kind of broken asymmetric player powers, and it just doesn't amount to the thing that we want it to be.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
Don't know
why. But hey, that is Circadian's First Light. We played Claim, which is a tiny 2-player deck building game where you have different factions of mystical creatures and trolls and things like that all have different things they do. And you're going to be playing 2 rounds of trick taking. In the first round, you're going to be playing to try to win certain cards, which will be used in the second round. And it's just really fun to have these different mystical creatures because there's goblins and knights, and the strongest goblin loses to the weakest knight, and knight always beats goblins. So you have that to play with. Or dwarves want to lose. The losing player of the trick collects the dwarves, and in the second half of the game, you're trying to collect majorities of each faction to win. So it's just really weird. There's different versions, so you can start smashing together different groupings of these mystical creatures and stuff. It's really fun, and it's just straight up trick taking from there, but with fun little twists with those those little faction powers.
Yeah, really, really good. We played Clank, a deck building adventure is the full name.
But no, for that.
No, we don't. It's Clank. Clank is great. Clank is it's a game where it's a deck building game, but it's a deck building with a board. Essentially, you're using your cards to move around this castle or a ship or a pyramid, depending on what expansion you're playing with. There's a lot of them. And you're moving around and you're essentially trying to grab treasure. There is some kind of dragon or big spider or something down there that doesn't like you grabbing their treasure. And essentially, a lot of times you're making clank, which is you making noise, means you have to put your cubes into this bag, and then every time the dragon attacks, you pull out cubes. If any of your cubes get drawn, that's you getting damage. You can eventually die in this game. But it's a really fun game where you're essentially trying to go as long as you can before you die. And if you do die, you want to try and die in the top half of the board because then you still get to count your points. If you die in the bottom half, you don't get to count your points. You're just out. But if you can get all the way out, you get even more points. It's just really, really fun. Just grabbing treasure, trying to not die, a little bit of push your luck with the clank. It's just good.
It's really good. We played Clans of Caledonia, which is a Scottish game where you're trying to put, you have a player board with all sorts of different little things you can place out into the Highlands of Scotland. You are trying to do that to get different production. You can have workers go out, which will give you money every round. You can have cows go out, which will give you milk. And then you can put a little cheese factory so that you can convert 1 milk into 1 cheese. And you're basically trying to do all this stuff to fulfill contracts is your main way of getting points. And when you get contracts fulfilled, they're going to give you... you're going to be exporting goods, which will give you points at the end of the game. They might get some perks in-game, but you're trying to basically stretch your money as far as you can to build out these settlements to different areas to get all this production going. It's just a really fun, satisfying game. It's quick. Yeah. There's 5 rounds, so it's one of those games where you're like, I feel like I don't have enough time. I certainly don't have enough money. Yeah. How do I make this work? It's crunchy and brutal in a great way. I really like Clans of Caledonia.
Yeah, it's really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we also play Clip Cut Parks, which is a cut and write. We played this during our big roll and write.
It's a unique game.
It's unique, and here's the thing: it's one of those things like it's not like the best game ever, but one, it's small. If your game is only going to be mediocre, make it small because then we'll probably keep it because it's small. But it's very interesting where you have a piece of paper and you're basically you roll a die, which essentially tells you how many cuts you can make and how big they need to be. And essentially you're trying to cut out the things from the sheet and then put them over a card, and you're trying to build out a park.
Different like park features, essentially.
Yeah, this park wants a thing here, and then a red thing here, and then a thing here. And you're like, okay, so you need to try and cut them out to get them to fit. It's very cool, very weird. It's fun. It's just very, very interesting. Again, it's not like the best game ever, but it's very different, and I do like it. And so, like,
it's the only game we have that has scissors.
It is, and it feels weird just constantly cutting into a game, but it's cool. It's good. I like it.
We played Cloud City, which is another Praise Be Phil Walker Harding game, where you're going to be placing out a tile. Ultimately, you're going to be building a 3x3 and a 2-player, a 3x4 grid. You're basically building the city in the sky. And they're going to have some foundation things. They're going to give you different towers of different sizes that you are going to place, and then hopefully build pathways to similarly heighted towers. There's kind of three. There's like the rivers and the forest and then the sand. And you're building, the longer the path, the more points you'll get. In the end of the game, you're going to get points for all your paths. So you're trying to build out this thing in this kind of 3D puzzle, because I might have something up here, but I could have something go lower and go across. And so you can build it in a puzzly way.
It's very cool.
Phil Walker Harding is a puzzle-minded person.
Yeah.
This fits right into all those. You place a tile, place some stuff. Accessible, easy, puzzly, interesting. And then there's also these kind of extra advanced rules and stuff you can put on the game, which is really cool. This is my favorite of his games, but it is neat. Yeah. And I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's definitely very cool. It's definitely very cool. We played Coal Baron, which is a Kramer and Kiesling game. It's a game where you are a coal baron. You are running your little coal mine. And essentially you're trying to, like a lot of games, you're trying to fulfill contracts. Contracts will call for certain kinds of coal. There's yellow coal, brown coal, gray coal, black coal. They all have different values in terms of black coal is the most expensive, yellow coal is the least expensive. And essentially you are trying to go get new mine carts, which is you building out your tunnels, finding more coal, and then you're going to use action points to then move your mine shaft up and down to collect the coal, bring it to the top, to the surface, essentially, and then put it onto contracts and sell those contracts. It's got a cool scoring system where you get points for like the contracts themselves, but at the end of every what is called shifts, there's 3 shifts in the game, every round basically, you're gonna score certain things, and it's just very cool where you can choose to not do as many contracts and focus on that. It's just a very interesting game that works pretty well. Another worker
kind of set collection in its
way.
kind
of in its way. And it's another worker investment game where no spaces are blocked, but you have to pay more to go to those spaces. Really, really like it, Coal Baron. Shouts out to Crook for getting for my birthday.
Shouts out.
Good man. Coal Baron's great.
Coal Baron is great. We played Codenames Duet. We got assassinated in it, but we have a great time. Codenames Duet is a game that, like, every time you play it, which is not that often, I remember I'm like, man, this game is so fun. Yeah. It's a 2-player version of Codenames where you're giving 1-word clues and for a certain amount of words that are in the middle. So it could be, you can pertain to 3 words if you think that they're all linked up. And then your teammate will try to guess what words on the table your clue is pointing toward. Yeah. And in the 2-player version, it's cool because there's certain clues that are only words for me are clues. There's certain for you that are only. There's certain clues that we both have. And then there's certain assassins we have. So if Nick guesses this word on one of my turns, we got assassinated, which is what happened. Super fun, clever kind of 2-player twist on a party game that I like the best. Better than the party
it's
version.
The best of all of them for sure. We play Conspiracy, the Solomon Gambit. This is a game by Restoration Games, who are our sponsor. Shouts out. Sponsor Daddy.
Shouts out, Sponsor Daddy.
And so Conspiracy is a very interesting game where you essentially are trying to get this briefcase, which has information or whatever, spy stuff, to your headquarters. And you use that by using these different spies that are on the board, but the spies are for everyone. There are like 6 different spies, and everyone can use them to move around this briefcase trying to get them. And essentially you can pay off the spies. So when Mike tries to get the spy to move to grab the briefcase, I can challenge him. And then we start bidding how much we've paid. And if I've paid more, essentially, he then can't do that action. But one of the actions you can do is to pay off more people. And so it's
make sure this person's in my pocket.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. I really like this game a lot. I will say it's not great at 2 players. You really want 3. You really want 4.
You want the
because
max.
then it's really back and forth, because the game also has a timer that it can time itself out, and then there's a different way that someone can win if it times out. And so it's this really tight, very kind of stressful game.
Yeah.
It's not great with 2, but it is a very good game, but it is kind of a specific player count kind of game. But it ultimately is very, very good, and it looks great too, which is nice.
Yeah. We played The Crew, played a little quick round of The Crew with 2-player, which has a kind of a dummy player, or the captain sort of controls the third player.
Jarvis, I believe.
Jarvis. It's a great trick-taking cooperative game that we absolutely adore. Love it, love it, love it. The Crew is great.
Yeah, it's just good. It's just good. We played Crisscross, which is a tiny little roll and write. Great game for like holidays. holidays, bring around the family, because it's literally, it's basic. It's hardly a game.
You roll
Almost,
two dice that have different symbols on them. You have to put those symbols
Yep.
into your little 5x5 grid. They have to be next to each other, and you're trying to have in each row or column a bunch of one type of symbol.
That's it.
And they all score. So if you have like a really good column, probably your row is going to suck.
Yeah.
So you have to try to balance those two things, but that's literally all it is.
It's all it is. It's great. It's small. It's wonderful. It's a great little
crisscross.
run.
We played Crown of Amara, which is another Crook present for
Crook's
Nick.
birthday, yeah.
Crook loves Nick.
Shouts out to Crook.
This is just a Euro-y ass game, man.
Euro, baby.
Which means there's no dice and stuff like that. People are always like, what's a Euro game mean? But you're placing these cards out onto one of 3 slots per round, which will dictate one of your little people will move, your counselors or whatever they are. And there's kind of 2 halves of the board. One is kind of a rural half where you can get a bunch of resources. Then one half is the city where you can basically spend those resources to get various things. And you're trying to work up 2 different scoring tracks. One is kind of your housing, one is your citizenry.
Yep.
And you want whatever your lower score is at the end of the game is your actual score. So you want to build them up evenly. And it's just an interesting, cool, tight game because you're playing these cards out to move your thing, but then the card that itself will have a power, but you're only going to go through your deck of cards twice.
Yeah.
So it's like you only have 2 cracks at each of these cards and stuff, so you want to use them well, and it's just a cool, interesting, fun game.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. We also played Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace is a big game by Capstone that I like more every single time we play it. It's a game that has one of my favorite themes, which is the World's Fair. And essentially, you are going through the 5 years of the World's Fair.
3 years, you're going half. You're doing.
That's what it is.
Spring and fall.
3 years, exactly. Spring and fall, and essentially, it's kind of like a dice allocation game where there's all these different parts of the World's Fair that you can allocate your dice to get like influential people. Yeah, you're getting buzz, you're getting influential people, you're getting patents, you're getting all this different kind of stuff. But it's cool because you can choose whatever die you want, but you have to pay that much. Higher dice are better. But it's this kind of weird back and forth with that of like how much do I want to pay? Money is very tight. It works really, really well. I like it a lot. I really, really like Crystal Palace.
It's really cool. We play Control, which is a game where you're placing out these little cubes onto a bigger cube, which is your battlefield. And you're trying to basically, at the end of the game, you want to look at every face of the cube. And the more of your cubes you can see that are still visible, that haven't been covered up or blocked in some way, the more points you get. Yeah. This is a game that's kind of like built on a gimmick of like building this 3D puzzle out. But it's a gimmick that kind of works. Yeah. It actually is a good game. I don't think it's going to be in my life for very long because I think even though it gets beyond its gimmickness, it only has so much you can do because I'm just not a really tactical, abstract person. But it is a really cool game where you're thinking in all these different dimensions at once.
You know what this is? This is a great game for a board game cafe.
Great game for a board game cafe. I agree.
Because you're like, oh, let's pick it up. Yeah. Oh, cool. And then it's like it will probably not stay in our collection for super long, but it is very, very cool.
It's neat.
Yeah, it's very cool, very unique, very fun. But yeah, it's limited. It's just what it is. It's limited. But I don't think it's trying to be anything other than that. So it's fine.
It's very cool.
Next game we played was Deep Sea Adventure. This is a great tiny little oink game where you essentially are trying to.
The worst person on earth. This game. I don't think I've ever scored points in this game.
I've never won this game. Well, actually, one of us. Who won this game?
You won the game.
Wow, it's the first time I won this game.
I got 0 points.
It's the first time I ever won this game. So basically, you're essentially diving down your deep sea adventurers. Looking for treasure. Picking up treasure. The problem is when you pick up treasure, you start using more oxygen because it's heavy. It makes you slower getting back to the boat. You're basically trying to go down, grab stuff, go back up, and try to score points that way. It's great. It's push your luck 100%. It's wonderful. It's tiny.
You don't even know how much the tiles are worth.
It's just dumb fun. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, it's really good. We played Dice Hospital, which is the game where you're getting dice who are patients and stuff, and they're going to have a certain level, and you're trying to get them to have above a 6, which is the highest level, which means they're healed. If they go below a 1, they croak. And so you're gonna get all these different patients represented by these dice, and then you have these nurses and specialists that can go on to spots, and they can treat this can treat any yellow die, or this one can treat someone who's a 4 or 5. So it's puzzly because it's just kind of abstracted by the color of the dice and the numbers, and you get all these different specialists. That's like if you have 3 reds that are in a sequence of like 3 numbers all going up by 1, you can treat all 3 of them. So you're like, ooh, now I want to get to a 4, 5, 6, so I can turn 1 into a 5, 6, and then 7 and heal 1, and you're trying to like put together these combos with the puzzle. And so it's a really satisfying puzzly game with dice that you're not actually really rolling once you get them. So it's cool.
Yeah. It's very cool. We played Dinosaur Island. We played Dinosaur Island blisteringly
12
fast.
Minutes, 2
12
rounds.
minutes, Dinosaur Island. Here's the thing, Dinosaur Island, one thing that's nice about it is you can choose to play a short game, medium game, or long game. The short games are not long.
Too short.
Especially if you're just trying to end the game as quickly as possible like we were. You can play very, very fast.
Literally ended in round 2.
Yeah, Dinosaur Island is great though. I still really, really like it a lot. I am curious about Dinosaur World and what that's going to be like. I like Dinosaur Island a lot. It's one of those games that has kind of cooled down and stuff as it's gone on. It's just very, very big. Kind of got bloated.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. But it is a very, very good game. I think the game works very well. I love the theme. I love the look of it. I really, really still like this game a lot. I think it's really great. Don't play the short game though. It's too short.
It's too short. We played Disney Villainous, which is a game that is such a cool idea, and it's not as good as it should, as its idea is.
Yes.
I like the game.
Yes.
I do not love it. I always want it to be better than it is.
Yes.
It's always too long. It's a cool game because you are playing different Disney villains, which is super duper rad. The art is fantastic. Your little player piece is super cool because it's like an abstracted version of that. The ideas and the production way outpace the gameplay.
Asymmetric nature of it's so
it's
cool.
Super asymmetric. Everyone has a different way to win, and you have a board which will have 4 actions, and kind of like Scythe, you have to move your pawn to a new action every time and then carry out the different icons on it. So it's accessible and cool, but for whatever reason, when I play, I'm just always like, this is still going on. I should have won by now, or someone should have won by now. Why is this not going? I always end up in that position, and I'm always bummed out, and I don't know quite why, but it's just one of those things that every time I'm like, this idea is so great, why don't I like it more?
Yeah. I'm kind of the same.
Because I don't. It's very fine.
Yeah.
I almost want it just to collect the art and the pieces. I don't know if I care to play it. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same boat with that.
I want to like it more though.
We played Downforce, another game by our sponsor, which we're required to mention. We're not required to mention that. We just like our sponsors.
They don't even check in on us.
They don't care at all. But now let's play Downforce, which is a racing game, which is my favorite racing game. I think yours as well. We're essentially trying to do one lap Formula One racing kind of style, and you're playing out these cars. The cars will have all 6 or have various colors on them that will have the different colors of the cars. And you're essentially, if you play this one, it has a 6 green, move the 6 green, 5 orange, 5 orange. You move them up like that. So everyone's moving each other's cars. It's really, really great. It's super simple. It's quick. It's really, really, really fun. I will say this game though is not great at 2 players, and especially you want to play it with 6.
It's most fun.
I would say 3 or 6, because the 3, everyone will get 2 cars.
Yeah.
6, everyone gets 1 car. It just works better. It works at all of them, honestly, fine, and it scales fine. But it's just more fun and exciting when you have a full game. So this is a game that I love to play at conventions because we can always get a full game, and it's just so much fun. Yeah, really but cool it's by far my favorite racing game. By far, nothing's even close. I love it. I'm always like, I wish we had 4 other siblings.
That'd be cool.
We have 2 other siblings.
There are 4 siblings total, but
yes.
we need 2 more.
Yeah.
We need 2 more. We're shopping, folks. We played Draftosaurus, which is a cool little drafting game where you're drafting little wooden dinosaur meeples, which is adorable. You're putting them into your dinosaur zoo, and each of your little enclosures want different things. One wants all the same dinosaur. One wants all different dinosaurs. One wants 3, whatever you want. One wants pairs and stuff. So it's really simple stuff. You can figure out like easily who wants what, and you're just drafting these awesome, adorable little meeples. So it's a great little drafting game that goes down smooth. You can teach and play it in 10 minutes. Yeah. And it's fantastic. Love Draftosaurus so much.
Yeah, really good. We played Dragon Castle, which is a game we've played recently more often. And we're always like, yeah, I freaking love Dragon Castle. Dragon Castle is a Mahjong-inspired game where essentially you're grabbing these tiles, putting them in your kind of like building here, and you're trying to build a big shrine for essentially the gods, the dragon gods and stuff like that. And essentially you're getting matching tiles, trying to put them here, trying to match colors. Whenever you match 4 or more colors that are orthogonally adjacent, they'll flip over and score you points. And then you can start building on top of that. And you want to start building these shrines on the 3rd level, or you can build lower, but it's worth more points on the 3rd level. But it just works so well. It's very, very cool. There's like a lot to explore. There's a lot of different setups you can have that are in the book. Like, hey, you can set up this way. If you want kind of more of this kind of game, you can set it up this way. It works really well with all player counts. It's good. Dragon Castle is so good. The production is bananas. Yeah. It is so gorgeous. It's just, if you want a relaxing game, play some Dragon Castle. It's great.
It's super zen. It's super great. We played Duelist Island, which is a 2-player version of Dinosaur Island that puts you more card specific.
It took longer than Dinosaur Island to play.
It took a minute longer.
Than Dinosaur Island to play.
But it's an I split you choose. We're going to be rolling out these DNA dice and specialists and stuff. But if I'm choosing where everything goes, Nick gets the first crack at it, and you go back and forth. You're going to draft, or not draft, but you're going to draw cards every round, which we can play as dinosaurs. You can play as different features in your park, either above or below your player board. And you're trying to get the excitement and stuff going, just like in Dinosaur Island, to ultimately get to past a point threshold, which will trigger the end of the game. And you can have short, medium, long by having different point thresholds. And so this one's a super quick and snappy version of Dinosaur Island that kind of feels condensed down to all the DNA business and then placing things out, but just less moving parts, which I really appreciate. So Duelist Island is really cool.
Yeah. Next game we played was Dungeon Pets. Dungeon Pets is one of my favorite games of all time. It's in my top 10. I love Dungeon Pets. This is a worker placement game where you are running a monster pet store and you're essentially getting these little monster pets, raising them, taking care of their needs, and eventually selling them to a dungeon lord who's coming to town. It's a very tough game because monsters have a lot of needs. Kids have a lot of needs. Y'all know that. And you have to play with them and feed them and clean up their poop, and they get angry a lot and all this kind of stuff. And it's a very tough balancing game, but it's so much fun, so thematic, great stories come out of it. It's just, from the moment I saw it on, I think I saw Rado do a review of it a billion years ago.
Yeah.
The moment I saw it, I was like, I'm going to like that game. And it's still in my top 10. I love it.
It's been around a long time for us. Super
one of our oldest games, yeah.
We played Eclipse for the first time in quite some time, the old version. Now there's a new version and stuff. It's probably way better, but we played the old version. It's all fiddly and whatnot. This is a space exploration game, kind of a 4X game where you're trying to basically build out and then kind of get resources going from different planets, which will take cubes off of your board, which gives you more production and building materials, money, science. You can use science to research more technologies. You can build up your ships and get cool guns and engines and stuff, which you can go fight ancient aliens or take over each other's territories. Ultimately, will happen. It's a super cool game that we really enjoy playing a couple times a year, especially if we can get a couple buddies so we can get like a nice 4-player game going because you want to kind of be in each other's way. But it's a big, cool, fun space game. Yeah. It's kind of like one of the only games of that nature that we have. But Eclipse is super cool. It's like TI4 without all the extra time.
Yeah, it's great. It's really, really good. We played Eco's First Continent, which is a John DeClaire game, great John DeClaire game that we really, really like. That again, I think is very underrated. I think it's an incredibly good game. Very ultimately simple game in terms of what you're doing, but essentially you're pulling out, there's one person, the Harbinger, is pulling out these tiles, and these tiles will have some kind of symbol on them, and everyone has cards in front of them that have those symbols on them. When that tile gets pulled out, you can cover up one of that type of symbol. Once you have all the symbols on a card covered up, you then can use that card, and the card will put out new land types, whether it's deserts or forests or water.
Land types, add animals.
Convert land types, add animals, do all this stuff, and basically trying to score. It might be like, oh, you put a tree down on a tile, and for every other tree adjacent to that tree, you'll get a point. And every card in the game is unique. There's a billion different cards, and just because of the cards you get, your strategies just change. Like, okay, this time I'm going really heavy rhinos because I have a couple of cards that deal with rhinos. Okay, so I need to make sure there's desert out there because rhinos like desert, and you make sure they're separate. And it's so fun and so good, and I just feel like it came out and everyone went, bye. And then it's so good. I love it.
Really cool. I think it's really cool. We played Everdell, as we are wont to do on any given month.
We are wont to do, yeah.
It's a great tableau building worker placement game where you are little woodland creatures building out your little woodland town under the Evertree, and you're going to get twigs and resin and stone to build up your buildings. You need berries to recruit critters and stuff, and different critters and buildings are going to give you all sorts of perks. Certain ones are going to give you production during the spring and fall. Other ones are going to give you discounts and bonuses when you build stuff. Other ones are going to give you more worker placement spaces. Other ones are going to give you endgame scoring. And so it's all about how you build out your town and kind of going in a certain direction. It's just a really fun game with fantastic art. And those tableaus that you build out can get pretty kind of fun and combo-tastic. So it's about stretching out your resources as far as you can throughout a year to kind of make the most of it. Really fun game, Everdell.
Yeah, we played Evolution Climate specifically. Which is a great game where essentially you have a species, you're putting traits on those species like horns or defensive capabilities, or you're a carnivore or whatever. And you're essentially trying to evolve your species to try to eat the most food. Whoever has the most food at the end of the game wins. We play with the climate expansion, which adds climate to it. So there's different climate events. The world can get hotter or colder, and that can affect your species in good and or bad ways. This game, for some reason, we had a ton of like natural disaster events happen because those can happen. It was nuts, yeah. And so, really, really fun game. I like Evolution a lot. Another Evolution game, which we'll talk about a little bit later, I definitely like more, and this kind of solidified that for me.
Evolution's on its way out, I think.
Yeah, but Evolution Climate, specifically Evolution Climate, is still really, really great. Yeah. But it has been usurped a bit. But nonetheless, it's still a great game.
XLibris is a cool game where you're building out a library in a mystical land.
First multiplayer game of this I've played in a long time.
First multiplayer game, and I think maybe I'm convinced now too that it's a solo game.
Yeah, it's a solo game for me.
It's a solo game because there's some iconography stuff that's tough, and there's like lots of small writing. So if you're sitting across the table, it's just not great. And there's a fun thing where if you're playing solo, you have less and less worker placement spaces to go to each round, so it gets tighter and tighter. and you're trying to build and beat this public library. With multiplayer, it becomes a big table hog because you're putting these cards out and building out your physical thing. It's cool. I think it's just better solo. I really do. I'm with Nick on that. So great. Don't need to play it multiplayer anytime soon.
Yeah, really good though. Play Fantastic Factories. Fantastic Factories is a great little, very simple, very quick engine builder game.
Yeah.
Where essentially you are rolling out these dice, getting resources like power and steel and stuff, and putting these cards into play. The cards all the times will have dice allocation spots on them as well, which will then get you power and steel and stuff like that. And it's really, really fun, really quick. I really like the look. It's got this kind of like very simple look to it, but I think it works really well. But it's very quick. If you want like a nice, easy engine builder, because a lot of engine builders tend to be very big games.
Yeah.
If you want a nice, easy engine builder, I really like Fantastic Factories.
I like it too. I'm excited about the expansion because this one for me falls into a level of it's too quick. It's too short. There's either like really short, like Gizmos and this, quick engine builders, or big and long. Like I want a medium,
really
I want a true medium engine
because
builder.
Gizmos, we got rid of Gizmos for that exact reason.
Fantastic Factories is great, but as soon as you get your engine built up, the game's over. And like, I want to play with my engine a bit.
Yeah,
I want to play with it now, and it's over. And so I'm like, that's one thing I'm like, but it is good. Fantastic Factories. We played Feast for Odin. Fantastic, humongous Uwe Rosenberg worker placement game. I hate it now. You're playing Vikings, you're building out stuff, and you're basically trying to cover up a board that has a bunch of negatives and stuff on it. And if you surround certain things, you'll get production and stuff. You'll get income the more you fill out this board. But the different color tiles all have to be certain ways. So you have to upgrade. So a lot about upgrading your different little polyomino tiles that you get. You can explore islands. You can build buildings and stuff that all give you more and more stuff. There's a million different directions to go. It's fantastic. I love Feast for Odin.
It's really good. We played Feierabend, or Finishing Time in English. Feierabend, Feierabend, Fire, whatever. And it's the English version is Finishing Time. This is a great game that we really, really like. It's a Freedom and Freeze game, so it comes in a very big green box. But it's a game where you are essentially trying to get relaxation. You work a horrible job.
Chill out.
Yeah, you work a horrible job in a horrible place, and it stresses you out. But then you essentially you're spending your workers trying to go get relaxation. Go here to go to an amusement park, get some relaxation. You go to the bar with some friends, get some relaxation. But once all your workers are spent, then they all have to go back to work, and you get a ton of stress again. And you're essentially going 2 steps forward, 1 step back, trying to get like that. But then you can also strike for better working conditions. Like, I want a shorter work week, which means you get less stress when you go back to work. You're like, I want higher wages. I want the gender gap to get closed so I get more money. You know, all this different kinds of stuff. It's really, really cool theme based around like, hey, your work sucks, make it better. And then also just like, hey, let's go get relaxed. Let's go on vacation with my spouse and let's go do this. Really, really fun game that works really well, pretty quick. It's really, really good.
Yeah. Super cool. We played Fireball Island, the Curse of Volcar by our sponsor, Restoration Games. It's a marble flicking game, ultimately, where you are moving around an island collecting treasure, taking pictures and stuff, but then there's this god, Volcar, on top. He doesn't like people on his island at all. So you'll play these action cards, which will give you some movement, and they give you an action. A lot of times that action is, hey, take one of the marbles that's around the board, the fireball, and flick it, and see if you can knock over one of your opponents. And if you do, you steal one of their treasures and stuff. So it's just dumb fun. It uses this big 3D board, because you can have actual marbles actually roll down pathways and stuff. It's ridiculous good. Because it's just silly. It's fun. Just a silly time. And like, I just love getting into it because it's goofy. Yeah. And you laugh. And I don't know. I love Fireball Island. It's a perfectly childish, straight up time. Fun. And it's great. Fireball Island rips.
It's really, really good. We played Five Tribes, or Five Tribes. Five Tribes is a great game, a kind of Mancala style game where you have all these tiles, I think 30 tiles total. They have a bunch of different meeples on different colors. Essentially, you pick up a group of meeples, and you have to drop them off in an orthogonal line somewhere you want to go, bop, 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 bop. And wherever you land, you have to match meeples. So if I have a red meeple last, I have to land in a spot with a red meeple. Then I get to pick up those meeples. Depending on the color meeple you pick up, you then get to do some kind of action. Plus, you get to do the action of the tile that you landed on. And essentially, you're trying to gain goods, little set collection. You're trying to get a certain kind of meeple. You can get these Jins, which will give you usually a special power or an extra scoring capability. And it's just good. It's just fun. It's very thinky because you just are looking at a sea of, again, 30 tiles, all of which have 3 meeples on them. So you're just like, where to go? So it can be a little AP prone, but neither of us are super AP people. So we just kind of just play quick. And I love Five Tribes. We have one of the expansions. It's great. The expansion, it's great.
It's great. A game that we thought was great and we changed our mind is Flatline. Flatline is a sequel to Fuse.
I don't necessarily think I changed my mind.
I'm over it. I don't want to play it anymore. I'm done with it. No, who are you going to apologize to? The Flatline people?
No, not at all. People who have flatlined, Mike.
So people have Flatlined. Flatline is a real-time dice rolling,
okay.
dice placement game.
Fuse is better.
It's a sequel to Fuse, and we got Flatline and got rid of Fuse because Fuse is 10 minutes straight of just rolling dice and trying to defuse a bomb. And we're like, man, let's play Flatline. It's like more game to it.
It's got more of a
stuff.
game.
And here's the thing, I realized, I'm like, I don't want more game because all it is like, oh, it's more stuff I have to track. More things there's all these like little bits. I'm like, it's too much stuff to think about.
Yeah.
Whereas Fuse was so silly because you roll die, everyone has to take one. Nick's like, I can't take that die. Okay, well, we're going to get
It's
hurt
exactly
because of
what
that.
it should be, yeah.
It's exactly what it should be. Flatline, I've come to realize, it's not a bad game, but I've come to realize, I'm like, I want the quickness and silliness of Fuse. I don't want more game here. So now I wish that we had cold Flatline.
Yeah.
Fuse. And
What if we buy
probably
Flatline?
Flatline will be on the way out soon.
Yeah, Flatline is one of the games that a lot of people ask, like, what games do you want to cold now that you do your whole thing? Flatline was kind of the ones where we were like, we can get rid of Flatline.
Yeah.
Because it's
not bad, but I'm like,
it's
Fuse
100%
is better.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
I
just
like
more
Fuse
fun
better.
and
I
silly.
really do. We played Fleet the Dice game, which is a sequel to a game that we haven't played the original Fleet, but we love Fleet the Dice game.
Version of Fleet.
Roll and write version of Fleet, but this is a game that is combo-tastic. If you know us, we know we love games that have tons of combos. Fleet the Dice game is all about combos. You're essentially getting fish, putting out boats. When you put out a boat, you get a little combo thing. Oh, because of that combo, you get a little combo thing. Oh, that because you do this thing, and it just boom, boom, boom. It just snowballs and snowballs and snowballs. It's so much fun. Fleet the Dice game is incredible. Shout out to Brant for just forcing everyone to play it. Really,
out for making us play it.
and it's Fleet the Dice game. If you like roll and writes, you like combos, you have to try it. It's incredible.
Let's check it out. Flip Ships is a fun dexterity cooperative game where you are taking these little discs and you are literally flicking them up into the air, and they flip and they land hopefully on cards. And if they land on cards, they will destroy those alien cards, kind of alien invaders or space invaders, where
Space invaders, yeah.
kind of just hordes of aliens are working their way down to the land. And so if you're trying to flick them and destroy them before that happens, there's a big mothership which you're trying to flick into. It's like a little bin, and you have to flick it into that to ultimately kill the mothership. It's just really fun because like you'll have a string of like good shots, and then you just lose it, and you like can't flick
Can't do
like 2
anything.
inches in front of the thing. You're like, that sucks, and then you get it back again. And then you have bad things where it bounces and rolls away. So there's just a lot of luck and silliness, but it's pretty cool. And all the little ships have little powers.
Yes.
So you have a thing that you can do that I can't do, which is actually really kind of cool.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Because it might change your thing, but ultimately it's just like trying to do something that's meant to not be done well really well. Like it's not gonna. You can't flick strategically very much.
Yeah, it's not.
But it's just a good time.
It's really
Because occasionally
fun.
you pull something off and you're like,
You're like, yes.
I did that.
We played Fluttering Souls, which is a wonderful little game about your it's a set collection game where you're trying to collect these butterflies. It's very, very short, very, very simple little 2-player game. And essentially, you are going to set up all these butterflies in some kind of pyramid pattern, kind of like Seven Wonders Duel, essentially. And then you're essentially just set collection. You take a butterfly, then Mike takes a butterfly. You just keep going. Certain things get overturned, all this kind of stuff. And then you're just trying to gain points, and then you set it up again. It's cool because there's a bunch of different cards that all have different setups on them.
Yeah.
So the setup will change each time, and they're all
From round
different
to round
kinds
to
of
round,
configurations. And it's just, I mean, it is very, very fast, very, very simple, very, very quick set collection. Great game to take with you. Great travel game. Yeah. Really pretty looking. It's got just beautiful butterflies all over it. Joel, who made it, is a really wonderful guy. Great game, again, just introduce quick people here. Oh, want to play a quick game at lunch? We'll play
Super
Fluttering
simple.
Souls. Like, it's great for that. It's a really great game.
So a couple games we played back to back were Fox in the Forest and Fox in the Forest Duet, which is they're both 2-player trick-taking games. One is competitive, one is cooperative. In the competitive game, you're just trying to win tricks and stuff, but you don't want to win too many, because if I was to take like all 13, I was greedy and Nick would actually get points because he went nil, essentially.
Yeah.
So you're trying to like balance it out and work it right and know when to go nil, when to try to take just enough to get the max points, where Nick basically gets nothing and I get most everything.
Yeah, you don't want to shoot the moon, yeah.
No, not at all. And so in Fox in the Forest Duet, you are working together, and one will still be winning tricks. The trick taking is the same, except for you're moving this little pawn around a forest. And you're moving it a certain amount based on the cards you play, these little paw prints on them. And you're trying to move them to these little ruby spaces to collect these gems. And so there'll be a time where if we're at like Nick's end of the forest, we can't go off the edge. So I'm like, I need to make sure I win this trick.
Yeah.
If we win and move one space my way, we'll get this gem.
Yeah.
So, and we can't talk about what we have. So it's a really cool twist on it that at first I'm like, I don't know. I really like Fox in the Forest Duet a lot. I probably like it better now.
Yeah, I actually like it better
We're more
as well.
likely to play it as a co-op.
The good thing is both of them are just a deck of cards supposed to fit in the same box.
They're
So
all in
now
one
we have
box.
both. It's wonderful.
It's great. So that's the Fox in the Forest.
Mikey played Friday, which I've never still played. So either we're going back and forth with who's talking. You go ahead and talk again.
First ever game of it. And
That's
I realized
right, you
I
did.
won by playing it the harder way. because normally you are a Robinson Crusoe, you're helping out Robinson Crusoe, who's kind of a big old dum-dum, overcome these challenges, and if you overcome these challenges, you get to collect these cards, they're two-sided cards, and you flip it over, and it becomes a card that's a Robinson Crusoe card now. And you're trying to go through this deck of challenges, essentially, and then confront these pirates at the end. So normally you flip over 2 challenges, you choose one to play, and I was doing one, I just flipped over the thing and had to take on the challenge. So I was making it harder and longer on myself, and I won. So that was pretty cool. But it's a game where it's kind of a deck building game ultimately.
Yeah.
And you're drawing these cards out to hopefully get a bunch of successes. At the start you have a bunch of cards that are negatives and stuff, and you're trying to overcome that. But every time you shuffle your deck, you have to add in a bad Robinson Crusoe card because he's getting old and tired and stuff like that. So it's a cool solo game. Really like it.
I got to introduce Mike to Galaxy Trucker. He never played before.
Yeah.
Galaxy Trucker is a
fun.
really fun, weird game where essentially you're trying to build out a ship with guns and like laser guns and like shields and all this kind of stuff. And then you have to go through a gauntlet where all this horrible stuff is happening. And essentially during that gauntlet, though, sometimes you can pick up resources. You're trying to get those resources back to then just sell them. But it's just like meteors are coming and hitting and breaking off parts of your ship. It's very, very silly, but it works very well. It's got a really fun real-time aspect of where you're each building out your ship at the same time through a big old pile of tiles. It's really, really fun. It's a game that, like, I wouldn't want to play all the time, but like the times we do play it, I'm like, man, this is fun because it's just you have to go into it knowing that your ship is gonna get destroyed, and it's just luck. But like that's the fun of it. So if like you don't like that, you're playing it wrong, in my opinion, because it's like you need to go into that knowing that, and if you do, it's really fun.
Play to have a good time. We played Gem Hens, which is a silly game that we got other people to buy, then ultimately didn't back ourselves on Kickstarter. But it's a game where you are moving gems around a little.
Sounds so crappy to say.
A little pen, and you're kind of doing it with programming. So you're rolling a bunch of dice in a real time. Like 30-second round, and you're trying to get these dice to different spaces, and the different values will do different things. Mostly will move your chickens around, and then you can maybe scratch up more gems, and you're trying to then collect gems by moving your chicken using those dice, and you're putting them on different parts of a Fabergé egg, which each section of the Fabergé egg can only have one type of gem, so you need to make sure you have enough to fill out the whole thing and get points. So it's a weird little game that we were kind of tickled by on Kickstarter, and then finally got a chance to play, and it's fun and goofy. It's not a great game, but it is a goofy one.
Yeah.
So it's Gem Hens.
Yeah, it's fine. We played Gentes. Gentes is a cool like Civ-themed game that's got this really cool time mechanic where essentially you are trying to build out a little civilization basically through cards. And you have a population. You have like nobles and artisans and stuff like that. And they're on this little track, and you're essentially trying to get them because that's mostly how you put these cards into play. If you want to put in this certain kind of building, you have to have, if you want to put out like a cathedral, you have to have a lot of priests or something like that, you know? And it's got this really cool board that has all these action tiles on it, and the action tiles are free to anyone. So you grab an action tile, you pay for it, but also they'll have extra time because it's basically taking you more time to do that. But you can like get card, you can move your populations around so you can get the stuff you need to put in cards. It's really, really fun. It's got the time mechanic feels very unique. And I really, really like Gentes a lot. It's just, it doesn't really feel like any other game. And it's just great.
It is. We played Gingerbread House, which is another Phil Walker Praise B. This is a game where you're going to be placing these little domino tiles onto a little 3x3 house that you're building, a gingerbread house that you're building. And whatever you cover up is going to be stuff you get, which is another thing that Phil Walker Harding has played with in like Barron Park and such. And you'll get different types of gingerbread. You'll get different types of, you'll be able to capture characters and stuff, bring them to your house, and hopefully then capture them by matching the types of gingerbread they need on their card. And that's what you're ultimately trying to do, trying to capture and kill a bunch of famous fairy tale creatures.
You're murdering them.
That's how we read it, to get points at the end. And as you build up levels and stuff, you can get these bonus objectives and stuff. And it's cool because every time you capture somebody, you get this wild tile which goes down, which immediately gives you something. And then when you cover it up later, it'll be whatever you want. So you can get puzzly and combo-tastic. It has a lot of those Phil Walker Harding things that we tend to enjoy. Accessibility, bit of puzzliness, really fun, satisfying game.
Yeah, it's good. We played Gloom, which is a weird little game, very macabre game, where essentially you have a family and you're trying to make them have the worst life ever. And
before they ultimately die.
Before they ultimately die. It's a very silly little game. It's got these cool transparent cards, though, where you basically put them over. It's like, oh, now they got the plague, and no, now this happened, and then they eventually die, and you're trying to kill them in the worst way possible. It's very weird, but it's fun.
It is cool. It's very fun. Gloomhaven is not the same, but it's a game we did play. We played a scenario of Gloomhaven as fast as we could, and we were fighting down. So this is a big, giant dungeon crawler. It is one of the best jobs we did in a co-op game. We did not have a good co-op record during this marathon.
We did not.
But Gloomhaven, we won, and this is a gigantic dungeon crawling game where you have a party of mercenaries that are traveling from scenario to scenario to scenario, leveling up, unlocking new characters, unlocking new stuff, most of which we have no idea because we haven't played that deeply into Gloomhaven yet. But it's fantastic. Gloomhaven rips. It's #1 overall for a reason. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's really, really good. We played Gods of Dinosaurs, a new Pandasaurus game where essentially you have these tiles, which are 2 hexagons basically smashed together. And you're putting them in your little habitat, and the habitats will give you like rats, frogs, and rabbits essentially. And then you can also get ones that give you predator animals, which are tigers and eagles. And essentially, you're taking out these tiles, and eventually all of the different animals will activate. Once like a tiger activates, you then can take that tiger and then go eat prey animals. And if the predators eat prey animals, they will then populate. And you want to populate them because then you will have dinosaurs, because why not? Dinosaurs. And the dinosaurs, when they activate, they have to go eat predators. If they eat predators, they will lay eggs, because theme, and your eggs are worth points. So it's basically all about setting up your board to try to get prey animals and then trying to get predators, but predators that are near enough to the prey animals where they can eat them so they can populate, and then try to set up your dinosaurs so they can eat the predators and get you eggs, which will be points. It's a tough little puzzle, but it's not like destroying your brain tough. Yeah. It's just kind of like a relaxing little puzzle that works really well. It's got a cool look, cute tiny little meeples. I like it a lot. I think it's fun.
Super cool. We played Grand Austria Hotel, which is a dice drafting game where you are trying to, based on the value of the die, you're taking cake and strudel and different things like that. And getting wine and coffee to basically get people, convince people to stay in your hotel. They're going to go to the cafe and see what the food situation's like first and then stay in your hotel. So you're doing this balance of you need to prepare rooms so that hopefully when you bring people in, you feed them, you can put them in a room. Those rooms have to match the color of the person. You're trying to do that. So you're trying to prepare rooms. You're trying to hire staff and stuff, which will give you in-game bonuses, end-game points. You're trying to get basically spruce up the place for when the Emperor visits. There's all these things you have to do, and everything's expensive, everything is tough to do. So it's just a brutal game.
It's very hard.
It's also based on these dice. If I need to get a bunch of cake and strudel and no ones get rolled, I'm not getting any cake or strudel because that's how I get that.
There's only so much you can do. Yeah.
It's all about adaptability. Grand Austria Hotel is great.
We played Great Western Trail, which is one of our favorite games. I really like Great Western Trail a lot. This is kind of a game where you are delivering cattle to Kansas City, kind of a frontier theme. I really like frontier games. And essentially, you're going around the board, going up to Kansas City, delivering your hand of cattle. It's a bit of a deck building, not tons of deck building, but a little bit there.
It's hand management.
Yeah, and you're delivering your cattle. You can only deliver unique cattle, so you don't want a lot of the same thing. And then you go back to the start of the board, and you work your way up, and you deliver, and you keep going like that over and over and over again. But it's really, really fun. You can build buildings, which give you special stuff. You're essentially buying new cattle, buying new employees, trying to move a train up. It's really, really good. I love this game so darn much.
It's really good. We played Guillotine, which is a line management game.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. You have all these royals and stuff, and you're chopping off their heads one after another, and that theme always makes me laugh.
Shink.
And so you're trying to collect the right people. You're trying to get people,
you want the most expensive heads you can
basically
find.
The worst people and stuff. So what you're doing is you're playing an action card on your turn, which can manipulate, or you don't have to, but you can, which will manipulate where people are in the line, because there's also like martyrs and stuff who like, they're innocent, they shouldn't be, and so they'll lose you points. So I want to try to make sure I don't collect those. So I put someone else in front of the line that I really want collect their head, make sure Nick gets the martyr and stuff. So it's a really simple line management game that's got a theme that's objectively dark, but really funny. Yeah, because we're far enough out from the French Revolution.
It's kind of like the bloody end of that way. You're like, this is really weird. This is a screwed up game.
It's the only game to date that we have that has a piss boy in it.
That's true. More games need piss boys.
That's their little name.
Give us some hashtag piss boys in chat, please. Next game we played was Hadara. Hadara, again, is another civilization themed game, but essentially a set collection game where you have this kind of like these 5 different depots or whatever they're called.
Different colors of cards.
Different colors of cards, exactly. You have green cards, which are mostly food cards. You have blue, which is culture. Red, which is military. Purple, which is a bunch of different stuff.
Technology.
And then
yellow is money.
Yellow is money. And essentially, you're buying these cards, putting them in your little kind of tableau thing. And essentially, you're
going to boost tracks.
They're boost tracks. You're trying to get the most money, get the most points. It's a very, very fun game. Really quick. It's got kind of 2 rounds where the first round you are buying stuff and then discarding stuff in the discard pile. Second round you're buying stuff from the discard piles, which is cool because you can have a second shot at something.
Yeah.
It's a very, very great game. It's very bright and vibrant. I like it.
Yeah. We played Hanamakoji, which is a 2-player tactical card game where you're trying to basically have the most favor with different geisha by having more of their cards on your side of the table than on your opponent's. And whoever gets 4 geisha first wins. And you have these 4 actions that we must both do. You can choose the order that you do them in, but one is you kind of ferret away a card for later. One is you burn 2 cards from your hand. One is that I offer Nick 3 cards. He chooses one, I get the other 2. And then there's one where you offer 2 sets of cards. Nick takes one, I get the other one. So it's really tactical because I don't know what Nick has. So I don't want to give him exactly the thing he needs.
He might be.
And I'm trying to set up a situation that's only helps me out. And it's a really fun, great 2-player game.
Yeah, we also played Harvest Dice, which is another roll and write game or roll and write extravaganza. This game is where you are rolling out these 3-colored die. You have green, orange, and red. Red is tomatoes, green is lettuce, orange is carrots. I almost said oranges. Is carrots, and essentially you're drafting dice, and then if you draft like a 6 red, that means you drafted a 6 tomato, and you have a little grid with spots in it, and you have to put it in the 6 column. And you always have to build out adjacent to other stuff, and so it's just this little puzzle game. You can also kill the dice to get a pig and like feed your pigs and stuff like that, which is cute. Just like, throw it in the slop bucket. The pig will eat it. Essentially. And essentially you're trying to sell the most of these vegetables. It's a very fun, light little game. Again, small little not deck builder, small little roll and write. It's great to travel with. It's a fun little game.
It's awesome. We played Herbaceous, which is a great game that I got from my fiance, and we love to play it. It's a kind of a push your luck set collection game.
Kind of, yeah.
Where on your turn, you're going to flip over 2 cards. You can flip over 1 at a time. You're going to flip over 1, and this card will have a different type of herb in it. And do I want to put it in my private garden, or do I want to put it in the public garden, the community garden? Whichever I choose, when I draw the second card, it has to go into the opposite place. So one will always go to your private, one will go to the community. And then once a turn, if you want, before you draw cards, you can pot herbs. And one pot wants one type of herb and as many as you can get. One wants all different types of herb. One wants sets of 2s. And then one can have 3 of anything. And so you can only pot those 4 times, which are the 4 opportunities for scoring. So I want to wait as long as I can, but if there's more and more stuff that I need from the community garden, and then Nick says like, I'm going to pot right now and takes it all, I've lost all those herbs because only the things in my private garden are safe. And so it's a fun little bit of like, do I go now knowing I can get some stuff, or do I hope to get some more stuff later?
Right.
It's up to you. So it's a great game, Herbaceous.
We played Hero Realms. It reminded how much I freaking like Hero
really
Realms.
Good.
It's so
Why
good.
don't we play it more?
I don't know. For some reason, we haven't played Hero. We've kept it because, again, it's a small game. Make games small. We can keep them easier. But we haven't played it in years, probably. And this is a deck building game where you get right into the meat of the deck building, where your life is dope. You're really strong, really powerful. That's how you start, basically. Yeah. It's a 2-player head-to-head game, and you're just trying to kill each other. And it is so much fun. Again, right out the bat, you have enough money to buy big, cool, great, crazy cards. Everyone's kind of OP. It's great. Super fun. We actually have the expansion that makes it co-op. We've never played it.
I know we would love it.
And I don't know. This one that's good about this marathon is we had to play everything. So it's so much stuff. We're like, that's right. This game is really good.
Yeah, you remember why you own stuff.
Yeah, and so Hero Realms it's really fun.
It's fantastic. We played Hex Roller, which is a tiny little kind of abstract roll and write where you're going to be basically rolling out these dice, and they're going to get pooled by their number. The numbers are 3 through 8. And then however many 4s there are, for example, if I take the 4, I'll put in that many 4s onto my little series of hexes, and you're trying to basically fill different zones, and whatever number is most prominent in the zone, that's how many points you get. So obviously higher numbers are better. There's also like a 4 here and a 4 here, and if you connect the 4 to 4 using only 4s, you can get these bonuses there. And there's a few different things you can do that all kind of pull you in different directions, but it's really simple, fun, just kind of like really no theme puzzle roll and write, which I
really
enjoy those
theme.
games.
Not even trying.
So yeah, it's really good. That is Hex Roller.
Yeah, we played Hey, That's My Fish, which is kind of essentially like an abstract strategy game, essentially. But there's like this big ice flow, and they have different fish on them, and you have 4 penguins in a 2-player game, and you can move your penguin in a straight line. Whatever spot you leave, you get to collect that tile, which will have fish on them. Fish are either 1, 2, or 3. You obviously want the 3s. Fish are points. So eventually you're going like voo, 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 voo. If you ever play Fall Guys, it's kind of like Hexagon.
The hexes are going away.
Yeah, because the hexes are constantly going away. So you can get off on your own little island, which is great because then no one can get to you, and you can just slowly collect everything. And essentially, you're just trying to block people, get to the more expensive fish, just boom. And it's really, really fun. My main problem with it is the game takes longer to set up than to play a lot of times.
It's not,
because you have all these tiles, so you have to build in a specific way.
Fiddly in that way.
And there's not another way to do it. It's not like I have a solution, but that's my main problem with it. But it's still a really fun game.
Fun game.
But yeah, Hey, That's My Fish.
Played Histrio, which is a game where you're trying to put on the best play for the king using a fantastically colorful troupe of actors and acrobats, which are all animals, which is super great.
Cute.
It's a simultaneous selection game where you're trying to go to a spot, hopefully that no one else is going to, so you can collect all the cards that are there, which will then help you put on a comedy or a tragedy. Super simple, vibrant, colorful. We've evangelized for this game for some time. I think it's brilliant. I think it's sweet. And you're trying to get money by putting on plays that please the king, putting on the best version of that play to get a bonus amount of money. There's secret objectives, so if we run into each other, we can get some secret objectives, which get points. It's just a great game. Great simultaneous selection.
It's really good. Another game that we were like, oh yeah, this game rules. And that's Honga.
I know!
Honga is
like
great. Honga is so much fun. Honga is another game in the Haba family weight line like Adventureland. And it's just so fun. So Honga is a big saber-toothed cat, and you have to pet Honga. You always have to pay attention to Honga, or else Honga will come and eat your stuff. But essentially, you're trying to fulfill contracts, and you're basically trying to trade, essentially. So this contract would be like, I want a berry and 2 fish. And so you have to go out and get berries and 2 fish. But you do it with this really, really cool action selection system that I would love to see a big, heavy game use. Yeah. But essentially, you have a little circular disc, and it's broken up into 4 spots, and there are hands, and those are actions, and you have to put it in one of the spots, and whatever hands are pointing to, those are the actions you do that many times. Kind of like Cacao is a similar game that does that. But one of those hands has to be pointing at Honga, who's in the middle, or else Honga will come eat your stuff. And it's really, really fun. The production quality is great because it's Haba. And it's just a game that works really, really well. It's charming, it's cute, it really, really works. I want to see that system used somewhere else in a bigger game.
Yeah, it'd be super cool. We also played Illusion, which is a small little Wolfgang Warsch game, Wolfgang Warsch that is, where you are basically putting cards into a row, and you're doing this based off the color. So it might be blue, green, yellow, or red. And if we're playing red and I draw a new card, I'm gonna see, like, based off this card, what percentage of this card has red on it out of this kind of bordered area. And if I think it has the most of everything, I'm gonna put it on the far right end. If I think it has the least of everything, I'll put it on this end. If I think it's somewhere in the middle, I have to try to thread the needle and be like,
kind of like timeline.
This one has like 10%, I think, red. This has 20. I think it's in between those two.
Yeah.
And then you can either play a card or challenge. If you think the order is not correct, you can challenge and you flip over the cards which show the percentages, and you hope that it's all in order, kind of like timeline, like you said. It's just a really cool, simple game.
It works.
It's just trying to see in the way it messes with you. There's like kind of illusions where you think this is that, but it's like not actually showing that much color. You just think it is. Yeah. And so it messes with you. It's
really, really cool. We played Imhotep the Duel. We're not big fans of the game Imhotep, but we both like Imhotep the Duel, which is a 2-player Praise Be Volker Harding game. And it's essentially kind of like a very small version of Imhotep where you have all these kind of like tiles on this little board, and you're putting out you have tiles on the boats, and you're putting out meeples and stuff like that on the spot, and then once you can essentially choose to send a boat, and then depending on where your meeples are in that row, so the boat's here, your meeples are here, you eventually will get stuff on the boat. And essentially set collection. You're trying to collect stuff to make a little pyramid. Yeah. You're trying to collect stuff with its
novelist,
theme.
Build a tomb.
Yeah, all this different kind of stuff, but it works really well. It's quick, it's easy. I really like Imhotep the Duel. Don't like Imhotep, and so this is great.
We played Imperial Settlers Empires of the North, which is a fantastic game.
Oh, we gotta play the new expansion. We just got Mike treated himself to the expansion. I really want to play it.
So we played a quick game of Empires of the North, which we really like. It's a game where you're kind of building out this little engine based on whatever faction you're playing. And you're trying to play out these cards and start to work that engine and tap those. Maybe that's the engine builder I'm looking for, that medium one. Because you have all these cards will give you actions which you can trade and hopefully get a point engine going. That's what you want to do, is kind of get your engine up and running. And each faction is very specific to what they do. So you're going to be playing kind of a different game than I'm going to be playing, because your focus will be different. And that's what I love about it, is that there's all these different factions which give you different flavors, and it's just fun to try them all, man. Yeah. Baskin Robbins, the board game.
Another game we played, this was like the Haba day. We played Ikazu. Ikazu, again, another game in their family line. Ikazu is a really, really cool game that is got a really cool gimmick to it that works really well. Makes the game relatively fiddly, unfortunately, but the game is very, very fun regardless. Essentially, it's this game where there's a big water dragon thingy walking across a waterfall, and it's blocking the water. And behind the waterfall, there's all these gems. And essentially, you're like these, I don't know, like Avatar-looking people. Yeah. You're trying to swing over, put gems in these little spots in the wall. It's very, very kind of set collection-y stuff. Very simple game, ultimately. Yeah. But yeah, it works really, really well. The whole gimmick of the thing revealing behind the waterfall is super cool. Makes it kind of a bit fiddly, but it's still a very fun game. And it's a great game to bring out with people who don't know a lot about games, because it's a very simple game. Yeah. And they're like, whoa, because the production's very, very cool. But it is a very good game regardless. But yeah, it's a good game, but it's not a great game.
Yeah, we played the Isle of Cats, which is a cool drafting game. We played Remote Edition, which kind of turns it into a roll and write-ish version. But in this game, you're basically got a boat and you're trying to fill it with cats. You're trying to cover up all the rooms. You want to fill them full of cats. You want to cover up all those rats, kill them with the cats. And you want to build these cats out into different cat families and stuff. So you want to have a bunch of your red cats, a bunch of your blue and greens and stuff all together. The more you have together, the bigger the family, the more points you'll get. There's also these lesson cards, which will give you bonus points maybe if you don't cover up your rats, or for every room that you don't fill. So it kind of breaks in your focus and stuff. Isle of Cats is just really cool, interesting game that you have these polyomino cats that go laying on your boat. Very cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. We have one game that starts with J, and that is the Justin Bieber Backstage Pass game, the only real gamers have and play. Here's the thing. This game is really fun to play. Because really you go into it knowing that none of us know Justin Bieber trivia.
It's a Justin Bieber trivia game.
From, and like old Justin Bieber. Not even, so it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, we always have a lot of fun when we play it, but it is not a good game. It's just Justin Bieber trivia game, but we always have a really good time playing it.
We turn it into a legacy game where we have to play it a certain amount of times, because every time you play it, you get a quote, an inspirational Justin Bieber quote, and we get to tear it up, as you should do. And then once we go through all of them, then we can finally retire the game. So it's going to be quite a while, because we've only ever played it twice. But it's really fun to just basically make dumb answers for what this trivia is, because like I certainly don't know the real one,
It's really fun.
It's a good one. So that's Justin Bieber Backstage Pass. We played Kanagawa, which is a game where you're learning to be an artist and hopefully build out a nice big print of yourself. It's a nice landscape for you. And you can basically take these cards, you're going to draft these cards in a cool way where you can have different features. There's trees and animals and stuff, which are going to help you get these diplomas, basically for you focusing on an area. But if you don't want to paint that painting, because maybe you don't have the right skills, you can instead flip the card over and add it to your studio, which will give you more ability to paint different types of landscapes, give you more paint pots and stuff to use. It's going to basically beef you up so that you are more capable of painting in the future, which allows you to paint these things. And it's just a really simple, beautiful Bruno Catala game. Yeah,
it was Holiday. We played Karuba as well. Karuba is another game. This is a great game that's awesome because you can play with an infinite amount of people as long as everyone has the game. And so we'll play it like on Twitch a lot and stuff like that. But this is a game where you're essentially trying to get these explorers to these different temples. There's like a blue explorer. You want the blue explorer to get to the blue temple. And there's one person who'll flip over a tile. Everyone has the same 30 tiles. Like, oh, number 17. Everyone then grabs number 17, and you all have to place that in your... It's kind of like a roll and ride before roll and rides, but it's roll and ride with tiles, essentially. And everyone has the same tiles in the same order. Everything's in the exact same spot, and you're just building out, trying to get the most points. If you get to a temple first, you'll get 5 points. If you get to a temple second, you'll get 4 points. And so you're trying to get to these places the fastest, trying to collect like gems and gold along the way. Really, really, really fun game that we like a lot. It's just
really
fun.
Great. Yeah, it's really great. We played Keyflow, which is a card drafting version of Keyflower. And it's a really cool game. So you're going to get these cards, and they're going to give you little keeples or meeples, which can activate buildings, or you can get buildings which you can place into your city, which will allow you to produce different types of resources, get different types of these tokens. And then you can use your meeples to activate those buildings. And you're trying in the first 2 rounds to get a bunch of production built up so that in the fall and then winter, you can start moving resources around to different spots, because ultimately resources are going to be used specifically for scoring. But every resource or animal you get can only go to one scoring thing. So there's a lot to think about there in terms of like how do you want to allocate everything at the end. But it's a great, cool game where it goes through a year. In the first 2, you build up a production so that you can then store everything away for winter, essentially. Really neat game.
Yeah, really, really good game. We played King Domino, which is a great just tile domino type game. One that spills jars, I think deservedly so. Eventually you have these tiles that'll have 2 different halves. The 2 different halves a lot of times will be 2 different land types, and you're putting them out. You have to put it match land type to land type. You can build a 5x5 grid in or a 7x7 grid in a 2-player game. And essentially you're just trying to get a big mass of the same land type together, and there are also some ones that have crowns on them. So at the end of the game, you'll count however big each landmass is, and then count how many crowns are in that landmass. You times the 2 together, and that's your points for that specific landmass. You go through all of them, that's your points for the game. It's simple, it's easy, it's great, it's quick. I freaking love King Domino.
It's brilliant. We played King Domino Duel, which is a 2-player dice version of King Domino. This is one that, like, I was disappointed initially by it because it wasn't what I wanted it to be, because like roll and write, awesome. King Domino, awesome. 2-player, awesome. Checked off all these boxes, and I was kind of like, oh, that's all right. Yeah. And then I played it, but now I've kind of played it, and I kind of like it more again. Yeah. So I don't know what to think about this one, other than like, the jury's still out, but I enjoy it. So you're rolling dice now, which will create your little domino for you. And you're kind of doing a snake draft style where I'll choose one of the 4 dice, then Nick chooses 2, and I choose a final one, and whatever 2 dice you end up with, that's your domino. And then you have to place it, matching stuff just like King Domino, like types of like types. But it's more interesting than I thought because you're kind of racing to get these little player powers, but only one player can make use of them and stuff like that. So it's got a lot of King Domino-ness to it.
Yeah.
Really cool game. Interesting.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Played Kokoro, Avenue of the Kodama, which is another roll and write game. This game is brutal. It is brutal, brutal. I don't know how much I like it anymore because of how constrictive it feels. But it's basically...
I like it because I figured it out.
Mike's figured it out. That's the best part. So basically, you flip over a card. Everyone has to write the same thing, what's on the card. You have to write that into your little board. Yeah. But you're not allowed to. It'll have essentially a pathway on it. But you cannot rotate. You have to put in that exact orientation. And essentially, you're trying to hit these different not butterflies, flowers or worms, which are worth points. And there's a certain sanctuary on your board that's going to score. There are like 5 in the whole game. And this one, Sanctuary A for this round is scoring. So you want to have as many things touching A in a big line as you can. You'll score that. Next Sanctuary is going to score is B. So B, but the problem is you have to increase your score every single round. If you don't increase your score, the score for that round is 0, which is bad. And so it's very, very difficult, but because it's so constrictive, because you don't know when the round's going to end. Yeah, and you don't have control of what card flips over, and you can't even rotate that or mirror it or anything, and it's very, very hard. I do like it, but it is so brutal that it does, it pulls me out of it a little bit.
Sure, that's fair.
But I do like it.
We played Lanterns Dice, which is a roll and write version of Lanterns that is very much different than Lanterns. It's its own deal for sure, but you're going to ultimately end up with these 4 dice that you will orient toward you and toward your fellow players and stuff, which will dictate different colors they get, which is like Lanterns. But here you're going to be basically surrounding these triangles and stuff, and each triangle... 2 triangles will make a square and stuff because geometry, that's why. And that would be a pool. You're trying to fill out these different pools ultimately to put down fireworks. You're trying to have a big firework display because the Lantern Festival was such a success. Everyone wants a fireworks show. And you're trying to do a few different things. So it's puzzly and interesting. And a lot of the triangles will be surrounding different bonus things you can get. So very much roll and righty, get some combos going and stuff. And you can make use of these little Emperor powers as well. So it's a really cool version of Lanterns that I actually probably like better than Lanterns now. Lanterns Dice is really cool.
Yeah, it's cool. I like Lanterns better. Lanterns is next.
Terrible.
Lanterns is awesome. Lanterns, they're both really great. I think I like normal Lanterns a little bit better. But Lanterns, again, so it's kind of similar. But in this case, you're putting out tiles. Tiles have lanterns on them. Whatever lanterns are facing you, everyone will get those cards. And you're essentially trying to turn in sets to dedicate to the Emperor. So you can turn in 4 of a kind, 3 pairs, or 1 of each of the 7 unique types. And you're essentially doing that, trying to get the cards you need, while also trying to not just give everyone else the cards they need. Like if I see Mike has 3 reds, I don't want to give him a red because now he can just dedicate on his turn without having to do the work himself.
Yeah, which is fun.
Really fun. Yeah, it's got a little expansion, which I do like, but I can kind of take or leave. This game, I like Lanterns. I've always loved it because I find it very charming. And it's so relaxing. This is a game where I just want to kick back and just relaxingly play, just hang out, chat with people, just relax. I love Lanterns so much. It's really, really good.
Jump cut. Next up we have Libertalia, which is a cool game that I guess it just doesn't work as good as I want it to, but I do enjoy it. This is a game where everyone's going to have...
really? See, I think it works great.
You have different cards and stuff with different ranks of pirates on a ship. And you're trying to play those cards in such a way that will be advantageous. And different ones want to be played at different times, but we all get the same pirate cards out of this big old stack of 30. Then every round, you're going to play 6 of the 9 that you have. So you're going to have 3 that stay behind. Now that's where some differentiation happens. In the second round, we all get the same 6 new pirates, but now our hands are slightly different. And again, there's certain cards that want to be played at certain times, and you're going to be doing this to play high ranks to be able to get the first bits of booty and stuff, but there's things that will kill pirates and take stuff out, so you're kind of always trying to adapt. And it's one thing that I really enjoy the concept of the game, but it's one thing that for whatever reason, every time I play it, because you're usually teaching people and you're showing the pirates and you kind of go over the pirates like, this is how this one works, this is how this one works, this is how this one works, cool, good, start. And immediately they're like, how's this work? And I'm like, we just talked about, like, for whatever reason, it just doesn't.
I will say, I would love to play Libertalia with everyone I would love to play like a 4 or 5 player game with everyone who's played it before. Yes.
That'd be cool. Yeah, so I think that's my issue.
That's fair.
It's just like, I'm always like, this should flow better than it does.
Yes.
And I think it's just because people are unfamiliar with these roles, and there are like 30 different ones.
Yeah,
so,
there is a
lot. It's a good game, Libertalia.
Yeah. We played Lord of the Rings Journey in Middle Earth. It's another big campaign game where you just played one scenario. I really like Journeys of Middle-earth. This is a game where I would like to pick up the expansions for because we just don't play it enough because we like we talk about when we play it, we just keep we just keep restarting it. Like every time we play, we're like, oh, we're playing with our friend David now. Let's just restart it. So we can start the whole thing over again.
Because you want to show it all off.
Exactly. And it's like we just need you and me to keep playing so we can kind of just keep playing it because it's one of those things where I really, really love the game. And we haven't gotten very far because we keep restarting it.
Yeah, but you get you take your characters from Lord of the Rings through these journeys. You'll get experiences.
Yeah, it's super cool.
You might get items and stuff that you carry forward. So it is really neat.
Yeah, it's great.
What else we got? Lost Cities is a 2-player Renner Knizia card game where you're playing cards and then drawing cards. And you are trying to, there's just different colors and stuff. And if you place one down on your side, blue, yellow, whatever it might be, you're starting that expedition. And if you decide to start that expedition, you're going to immediately lose 20 points for starting that. And then the values of the cards will gain you those points. But the rule is you always have to play a higher card than the one you played before. So if I play a 5, I can no longer play 4 through 1. I have to play higher cards. And you're trying to basically get to above the your minus 20 threshold. And there's some multipliers you can play before you play any cards. If you're like, I think I'm really going to crush yellow. I have a lot of yellows in hand. You can play that. And you're basically going through this deck of cards and then seeing what expeditions cost you money, which ones gained you money or points or whatever. And highest points wins.
Yeah. We played the Manhattan Project Energy Empire, which
I've come back around.
I really have too.
We realized we've been making some mistakes, and the mistakes that we fixed made the game better.
It made the game better, and it's. I still think it'd probably be best with more than 2 players, but there are. It's another worker investment game where you're never really blocked out from a spot. You have to pay more, and there's essentially a dummy player or a bing bong player, as we call him, who just gums up the works essentially, which is fine. And yeah, the last few times we played this, I'm like, no, I think I like this game a lot. And luckily we keep keeping it.
Yeah.
Because
we're intrigued by it. The first time we played it, we were like, this is great.
Yeah. And then we played it again, we were like, this is okay. And then now we're starting to play, we're like,
it's good.
Oh, it's really good. I like it a lot. Energy Empire. It's a worker placement game where you are building an energy empire, but you don't want to build a super polluting one because you lose points for pollution. So you're trying to constantly clean up the areas that you're polluting. Right. It's really, really fun. It's very cool. I like it a lot.
It's super good. We played, Metro X. It's another flip and fill game where you're flipping over a card, which will give you a certain amount of spaces that you can basically fill on these different subway routes and stuff. But the subway routes will come together at stations where many of them will stop in one spot. And if I have filled in here and gone forward and I'm trying to build another one, I run into a space that's already been filled in, I basically have to stop right there unless I have the ability to skip, which there are a couple of cards that do. Now, we have the old Japanese version of Metro X. And there's a new one now that sells in Targets and stuff that's made a couple changes that make the game a little less brutal because it's very
really
hard. And I do want to get that new one because this version is too hard.
It's
too hard. The routes are really long and you want to complete routes to get points. It's very hard to do that. Yes. It's really difficult. And so the new one gives you a little bit more ability to skip those spots so you can jump over places that have been filled in before, which is super necessary.
This falls into the kind of Kokoro world of me where it's so restrictive and so brutal that it does start to take away my enjoyment of it.
But I think that new version,
but I do really like it.
Enough. So Metro X is a cool flip and fill game now.
Next one we played at the Mind is tied for the fastest game we played during our marathon. We played in 1 minute because we were not on the same wavelength, and we weren't throwing the game. We were literally like, boom, we just lost very quickly.
You're trying to feel each other out and play these cards out, but we're trying to do everything at an elevated speed. So what's the new elevated pace? We never got it down. We lost.
Yeah, we never lost. We got me. You're basically trying. You have cards in your hand. You're playing your cards in numerical order. Simple. A lot of people were like, it's not a game. It's great. It's fun. It's super fun. Just let it be what it is. It's just fun. Have fun with it.
Just be fun. We play games here.
Yeah, we play games. They're called games. They're meant to be fun. Just have fun.
They are children toys. We played Mint Delivery, which is a tiny little pick up and deliver game in a mint tin that uses little different types of mints that you're picking up and delivering. The Mint game folks make mint-themed games, and it's really cute and adorable. And this is a super simple. You have 2 actions. You can move your little truck. You can pick up some mints. If you go to the one of the corner towns, you can deliver the right types of mints to complete contracts to ultimately win. That's all it is. It's super cute. Really like it, especially those games. Mint Delivery, Mint Works and stuff all have solos and AIs and stuff. So I'm like, it's so cool because
they pack a lot into a small package.
Fits in your pocket. It's a cool gimmick, and I just like the Mint games a lot.
I've always enjoyed them. We played Miyabi, which is another Ahaba family game. Really great polyomino tile game that I kind of like. The first time or two we played it, I was kind of like, and we played it more recently. We did a playthrough of it for our Game House series, and then we played it again during this. I'm like, no, I actually really like it. This game is very difficult though. Essentially, you have these polygonal tiles with features on them. It could be like fish or rocks or something like that. You're essentially trying to build out a very pretty garden. And you have restrictions of where you can put the different features and stuff like that. You can only put them in certain columns, certain rows, and it's tough, it's restrictive, but it's a good restrictive. It feels very fun, and I really, really like this game a lot.
It's super cool. We played My Little Scythe, which is a
great
family-weighted version of Scythe, which is just super colorful and brilliant. It was originally designed by a family, a father and daughter, and they made it My Little Pony themed. They had to get changed to My Little Scythe because, you know, you have to pay people for that kind of thing. But it's fantastic. It's very much Scythe, but simplified, where you are moving around you have two little explorers now, and you can move them around to collect apples and gems, which you can ultimately turn apples into pies and stuff, which you can use in pie fights, which simulates kind of the combat of Scythe. You can take gems and you can craft different power-ups and stuff like that. You can deliver apples and gems to this castle in the middle, and you're trying to get 4 trophies out. Inside, you'd be putting 6 stars out, 6 objectives you complete. And here, you have 4 different objectives you can complete by doing different things. It's just adorable and cool because it does help teach you how to play Scythe, because the action spaces are similar. You have to always move your action pawn to something new, and you can only move, you can't move every single turn. You can generate resources, you can get friendship points instead of popularity and stuff. It's just adorable and great. I really, really like
I love My Little Scythe.
I think it's brilliant.
I think it's great. We played Nagaraj, which is a two-player game where
It's a brew trait product.
It's a brew trait product.
Bruno Catala, Vincent Dutrait's art.
It is indeed. Everyone has their own little board, and you're kind of Indiana Jones exploring temples, trying to find cool eggs and stuff.
Relics.
Yeah, relics, exactly. But you're essentially playing cards. The cards will give you the Naga sticks, which will essentially have different values on them or give you the ability to play cards later. So you're rolling them out. They're essentially D4s essentially, but like they're kind of cool. These big sticks you get to flip and roll and stuff. It's very fun. And then one person is going to win the tile. There's one tile you're bidding for. That person gets to put in there, and then the other person gets to be first player next turn. And so it's this back and forth. You're trying to connect spots to the side of your board, which will flip over relics. And you're essentially trying to get to 25 points. There are cursed relics, which are worth more points, but if you uncover 3 of them, you lose immediately. Yeah. Really fun back and forth game that also kind of went on the radar. It's unfortunate because it's a really, really good game.
It's really cool. It's really interesting. We played Nations, the dice game. We've never played Nations. We played Nations, the dice game, which is a super quick version of Nations, which is a civilization themed game.
Yep.
On this one, you're using your dice, which will give you money or stone, and you're going to be using your money and your swords to collect these tiles from a central board and put them into your kind of ever-growing civilization. You can work on wonders of the world by paying money and then using stone to actually complete them. You can buy different types of technologies and stuff, which will come down on your player board, which will give you different types of dice, which might give you a focus. The gold dice have a lot of gold on them, or the blue dice have stone and knowledge on them. And every round, you're kind of checking on your knowledge and stuff to gain some points and stuff. So it's just a super sped up version of like a Civ themed game that I think works really well. And we have the expansion for it, which gives you some asymmetric nations, which just basically start you with a couple different things, but super quick and light. Really like Nations Dice a lot.
Yeah, it's really, really fun. We also have the Networks, which is a great game that we really, really love, where you're running a TV studio and you're basically trying to get really good shows to go into certain time slots. Certain shows are going to require ads so you can get more money. Certain shows require stars so you get more viewers. Yeah. You're trying to get the most viewers. Viewers are your points. And you're constantly having to shuffle out like, oh, this show after a few seasons, it's getting a little old. People laugh tracks shouldn't exist anymore. We got to get this out of here. We got to put in a new show. They shouldn't. Laugh tracks are ridiculous.
They're done.
And it's just, you're constantly swapping your show. So a lot of it's balancing, like, how long do you let a show go? How long do you let a show go? When do you get it out? And it's really, really fun. I love it. It's got a great solo mode. It's amazing.
We played New York Slice, which is a game where you're literally slicing up pizzas that you make, and then people get slices of za, and you can either take that za, which have different numbers on them. You're trying to have a majority of each number to get the amount of points that number is. So if you have the most 7s, you get 7 points and so forth. Or you can eat pieces of pizza if they have pepperoni on them, and pepperoni are straight up points at the end of the game.
I went high pepperoni stretch.
But it's a I split, you choose, eat all the pepperoni. It's always great. If I split up the pie, Nick gets to choose the first section. I'll get whatever's left over. And in a higher player count game, it's the same way. You'll split it up equal to the amount of players, and then you get whatever's left over. So you're trying to get it in such a way that you get everyone to take everything else, but you get to keep the thing that you actually wanted. And there's these little bonuses that come up every round that will sweeten the deal. And it's just a fun I Split You Choose game with just an interesting theme. It's just pizza. Yeah. And it's great.
Pizza. It's really fun. It's really, really good. We played number 9. So one thing, kind of a theme that we had during all our live streams was hashtag no dome. Basically, you can't think about your turns. You just got to go. We got 203 games to play in a week. You just got to go. Hashtag no domes. Get some hashtag no domes in chat. There were certain games, though, that really benefited from no-dome strats.
Yeah.
And one of them was number 9, which is our next one.
Don't overthink it.
You can't, just don't overthink it. Just go. Just go. There are certain games where I really do think that going no-dome really helped you because it got you out of your own head.
Yeah.
Talking about, like, don't think, like what you were talking about earlier, Architects West Kingdom.
Don't try to
I
get
didn't
too
have
clever.
time to get bogged down. Just no-dome it and just have fun and go. And number 9 was, I played like the best game of number 9 I've ever played in my life. Really great game where you're stacking these numbers on top of each other, trying to get the higher numbers on higher levels. Really, really puzzly little game that works really well. I like it a lot, but also no dome strats.
No dome, because usually the first instinct you have is the right one, but then you start thinking it too
Yes,
much.
and you start
then
messing yourself up.
So yeah,
Hashtag
no
no dome.
dome. Number 9 will work out. We played Oceans, which we mentioned is kind of a spiritual successor to Evolutions, made by the same folks, North Star Games. And in this one, you are also building adaptations for different species, but now you're in the ocean. But this one plays much more in Evolution. You're trying to get adaptations to eat mostly from the watering hole and maybe become a carnivore. Here, you're trying to do stuff that will work off of other species, whether it be your own or your opponent's. So like I could have something that has an adaptation that deals to the species to my right, which might be Nick. So every time Nick successfully attacks, I get some food from that. So it's this very much circular,
It's very circular
balance game where you're trying to get everyone's population up so that you can feed and stuff, and then age out your population, which takes fish off of your little species, which are your points ultimately.
Yeah.
So you want to be able to age. So you got to keep everything in balance and keep everything alive. So it's all about kind of harmony and stuff, which is really interesting.
Yeah. It took the best things of
Benefiting off.
Evolution and made it better. It's a better game. in
Oceans
our
is really
opinion,
cool
at
and
least,
it's
yeah.
beautiful. It's in the water. Really great.
Yeah, it's really good. We played Omen, A Reign of War, which is another 2-player game. We have a decent amount of 2-player games because it's mostly us playing.
2-player,
And
trying to
this
have the
is
most on the side.
Yeah, and this is a game where there's a couple cities in the middle of the board, and you're essentially playing cards like heroes, all
Soldiers and oracles.
soldiers, oracles, basically to these different cities on your side of the board. And essentially, if you ever play a certain amount of cards, that city will then essentially activate.
Become embattled.
Become embattled, and you basically see who's going to win, and you're trying to get points. It's a really fun kind of like back and forth game that that was the first time I had played it. Actually, both of us had played it. Mike had learned it was on during our marathon.
Yeah.
It was fun, and I do want to try it again. It was very cool. It's got really great art too.
Yeah, it'd be fun to play it not speed style, so
Yes.
you can actually get a better
Yes.
grasp of what all the cards
But
do.
it was fun, yeah.
You played some Onirim, another solo game.
So
We played
what-
solo games together. I played Friday, he played Onirim.
I was playing Narum because Narum, you can play co-op, but you can also just play solo. As most people do, and it's a really fun game where you are essentially caught in a dream and you're trying to get out, but there's nightmares in your dreams. Essentially, you're playing cards out and you want to play cards. There's a couple different suits of cards, basically just colors, that have a couple different symbols, and you need to play...
You can't play the same symbol twice in a row.
You can't play the same symbol twice in a row, but you can play the same color twice in a row. So if you play 3 cards of the same color, you then find a door out. You need to find a certain amount of doors to win the game. It's very, very difficult. It's fun. It's got like a cathartic amount of shuffling because you're constantly having to like reshuffle. Again, very just like you're playing and it's tough, but you're not stressed out. You're just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna shuffle again, da-da. And it's quick. You can play. It's got a really great app as well. But I played it while Mike was playing Friday. We played 2 solo games next to each other. Really fun.
It was really cool. We played Orleans Invasion style because we realized we know that one better than regular Orleans.
Yeah.
So that's one of the times
Don't
we
know
did
regular
use the
Orleans very well.
expansion because we're like, this will be quicker. Orleans Invasion is a co-op version that you have gotten quite good at. I have not quite gotten good at.
Yeah, I played a lot more than him.
I never won Orleans Invasion, but it is a fun
Have you
way
never
to
won?
play. No. Never close. It's a fun way to play Orleans, where now you are working together to basically fulfill a bunch of objectives before you get through 21 rounds, I think, when the invasion happens. You need to have knights on the wall to protect. You need to have food and wine
Yeah,
stuff
stores,
stored
yeah.
up so you can party. You need to do all these different things, have citizen tiles, basically bring all the citizens back. But it uses the same bag building system and everything, and the same boards from Orleans with a couple extra things. It's a really cool way to play it. Orleans in general is great.
Yeah, it's great.
All the versions are good.
We played The Others, which is one of the few kind of big Kickstarter-y games we have. It's basically the only one versus all game we have as well. It's not great 2 players, to be completely honest. But we've kept it because we're like, we should keep one of these big one versus all games because we do like these kinds of games. And occasionally we have the opportunity to play them. We've gotten rid of all the rest of them. We've kept The Others because we do really like the system. It's got this very cool system where whoever the overlord is, who's playing one of the 7 sins, they don't have turns. They're essentially just reacting to what everyone else is doing, which is super cool. When we were playing it during the marathon, we haven't played it in a while, and it was a lot of like just in the book, so it was a little stressful to play during the marathon, but I do really like this game. But it's one of those games like you don't want to play it 2-player. Like you want to play like 4-player where it's 1 versus 3. Yeah, it's just, but it is a good game that's got a ton of stuff we got in the Kickstarter. It's got a lot of stuff. Really cool game. It's just, we don't have very many opportunities to play it, unfortunately.
We do keep it because we do have people that would be interested to try.
And we've got it all down to 1 box, which helps.
This also helps. Less shelf space is better. Pagoda is a great two-player game that I love more and more. I think it's one of the best two-player games out there. I think you definitely agree.
It might have been my favorite two-player game.
I think it might be. It's just fantastic. I think it's super cool. You're playing cards on your turn to build columns and build floors to build these pagodas. Go figure.
Pagodas!
You're going to do this all to build points, and the higher your pagoda is built when you start playing columns and stuff, the more points those are worth. But we're all working on the same stuff. So if I build up a pagoda, Nick can play on that pagoda. So if I think he has a bunch of yellow and this thing is on the 3rd level and needs a bunch of yellow, I'm like, maybe I'm not going to build that floor because then he's going to benefit off of all of my hard work, essentially. Every time you complete a floor, though, you get these little player powers, which are quite useful. And so it's just this fun back and forth game of trying to get these powers, trigger those powers in a way that you can kind of stretch out your turn as much as you can. And it just feels very back and forth. And every turn, every time you're placing stuff, you get points. So you're constantly getting stuff going.
Yes.
Great game.
Yeah, really great game. We played Paladins of the West Kingdom, which is the second in the West Kingdom trilogy. We didn't have Viscounts yet, although now we have it.
It will be in this video, but not because
it will
of
be
the
in this video, that's right.
Yeah.
But not during the marathon, nonetheless. But Paladins of the West Kingdom is a really, really great. It's kind of hard to describe, honestly, but you essentially have paladins, which are going to give you...
It's Orleans-ish.
Yeah, kind of give you workers, and you're going to get a tavern card to give you more workers, and then you can essentially, you have your board, and there's a bunch of actions you can do on that board, but you have to fill in workers to do it. So you need certain colors of workers, like blue workers are good at this, green workers are good at this, and you basically are just trying to extend your turn as long as possible. A lot of the actions you do will end up giving you more workers.
Kind of 6 areas you can focus on.
Yeah, and there's also a way to go here and essentially wipe your board so that all the spots are open again.
You get one spot open, but...
What?
You don't want to wipe your whole board.
Oh, I played that wrong, dude.
You haven't wiped your whole board?
I think so.
Cheating.
I think I haven't played that
Did you win
whole...
this game?
No. I did win.
Now I wonder why.
Boom. Okay, so I apparently been playing that wrong.
It's fine. You get to clear out ass space.
Ass space, but whatever, basically.
We're talking about when you do the prey action,
Yeah.
right? Ah, yeah. It's all good.
Oh, okay, I haven't played that wrong my whole life. But basically, Paladins of the West Kingdom is a really, really great game. It's a decently heavy game because, all the North Kingdom games were like, not light, but like, were like, gamer games.
The
but
West Kingdom trilogy on a whole is a step up.
Yes, and Architects was kind of on the level, but maybe a little help. And then Paladins kind of took it up, and then Viscounts kind of kept it there. But nonetheless, Paladins of West Kingdom is a really, really great game. I like it a lot.
Palm Island is a game we played while walking. We took a walk because it's a game that you hold in your hand like this.
Play your palm.
It's kind of an awkward hold, but you can hold all these cards, and you are basically going through your deck of cards. We will place our cards in the exact same order, but then again, that might change, and you do different things, and you're trying to get resources like fish, stone, and wood to then build and upgrade different cards. And once you start upgrading these cards by flipping them, rotating, it's really interesting the way it works. They start becoming worth points. You're trying to go through 8 times through your hand of cards and trying to upgrade stuff as much as possible. At the end, you see how many points you have by going card, 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 card. It's a really cool, interesting game. We have like literally a waterproof version, so we can and have played in the water.
It's pretty fun.
On walks, in line places. It was at a convention at Gen Con because their idea is like, play this while you're standing in line for stuff. And honestly, it works really great. Its marketing was fantastic.
We'll bring it to like Disneyland and we'll just like sit there play in line. It's great.
Really cool. Palm Island is awesome.
It's really fun. We played Pandemic, just OG Pandemic.
For the first time we didn't even play On the Brink.
We didn't even play On the Brink. We played base bottom Pandemic.
When's the last time I did that?
And it's still fun. I like Pandemic. It's like we've played it a lot. We've kind of played it out. I still really enjoy it because I love introducing new people to Pandemic. But but there's like other versions like Pandemic Iberia, which we don't have, but like I like that version better than normal Pandemic at this point.
I do too, yeah.
There's just a lot of new stuff with Pandemic, which is great, but I still do just love normal Pandemic. It's
why we're here.
Fun. Yeah, it's why we're here. It was our gateway into the hobby.
We played some Patchwork, which is a 2-player polyomino tile laying game where you're building a quilt. This kind of was a Uwe Rosenberg that was birthed out of the idea of Feast for Odin. Because you're building out this little board, so it kind of focuses on that, makes it quilt style, where you're moving a pawn and taking one of 3 quilt pieces in front of you, so long as you can afford it by paying buttons. And you're going to have to pay some buttons, and then when you put that tile on, it's going to have to move your pawn forward a certain amount of spaces. You're paying in time as well as time to sew it. And then whoever's player is further back on that central board, that time board, that's that person's turn. Yeah. So you could potentially go multiple turns in a row if you take tiles that only move you up 1 or 2 spaces and you're still behind, you go again and again. And you're building like a button economy because some of the patches you place will have buttons on them. And then as you move on this center board, you'll pass these button spots, which will give you money for every button you have on your board. And you're trying to cover up your quilt as big and as effectively as possible. So you have as few empty spaces and the most buttons wins. Great.
Yeah. We also put Patchwork Doodle, which is a roll and write version of Patchwork that's actually really, really fun. Kind of a similar idea where you have, they're cards now, but cards that have different patch shapes on them. And somebody rolls out a die and there's a person, they will move to the next card, and then everyone has to draw that in there. And essentially, you're trying to make the biggest square you can. And you're going to score multiple times throughout the game, 3 times, I believe. And whatever your biggest square is, you'll score a certain amount of points. And then you will lose points for negative spots, but it's not as brutal as Patchwork is, and it's fun. You have some ways to like break a couple of the rules a couple times in the game. It's a really, really fun game. Again, small version of the game, feels a lot like Patchwork. Great to play on a plane, great to play at lunch, you know, whatever. A lot of our roll rights fit in that category, and I like them for that. You know?
Exactly, they're just portable, man. We played Petrichor. Petrichor is a game that's just really interesting because you're sort of playing as nothing and everything. You're controlling the weather essentially to hopefully rain your color drops on the ground to harvest different crops and stuff. You want to have kind of the most presence in an area majority ultimately on these different tiles you have on the central board. It's a really cool game for its straight up uniqueness. It's really strange. It's a game that doesn't work at 2-player really well.
No.
You really need more players. And so it's like one of those ones I'm like, I really love it because it's so interestingly unique, but I don't know if we'll ever play it enough to really warrant keeping it. For now it's here, but I really enjoy it, but I really want to play it at more players because it's just so unique.
Yeah, it really is.
It gets by on its uniqueness so far, but it's a cool game.
It kind of has. We played Photosynthesis, which is a game, another game, kind of nature-y type game, where you are trees, an area control game where you are growing trees.
Using light.
And you are using that light. Light is your currency in the game. The bigger the tree you get, the more light you will capture, which is super cool. But then you have to strategically cut down that tree. Essentially, your tree will die. You get a certain amount of points, depending on where your tree is on the board. Really, really fun. It's like not quite as good at 2-player because you do want some more contention for space. 3 is really the best. 4 is a little bit too contentious, honestly. But 3 is great, but there is an expansion, which we didn't play with, but does add some more stuff, some more like special abilities, really neat stuff, which is cool, and that makes it better at 2-player because there's more stuff going on. But Photosynthesis is great. It's a showstopper in terms of table presence. It's really, really fun.
It's really awesome. We played Planet, which is you're playing with a magnetic D12, and you're putting these little tiles on that will have different types of landscape, and you're going to be trying to put those tiles on in such a way that you create land, a bunch of a certain type of land like ice and stuff that are adjacent or not adjacent to certain types of land types because there's all these cards that are out and then you want to win those cards, but it might be you need to have a bunch of desert that's not touching water, so you need to make sure that all of your desert on your planet is not touching water. But then later you might want a big area of water that's touching desert, so maybe I do want that touching, so you have to kind of choose like which cards do I want to focus on, and from the start of the game you know everything that's going to score, and you're trying to build out this 3D puzzle, and it's just really neat.
It's really cool.
Really bonkers and fun. I really like it.
We decided to play the fastest game of point salad we ever could. We literally were trying to go as fast as possible. We played it in 1 minute.
That was a quick minute.
Point salad is a great, it's the fillery ass filler as we call it. It's the epitome of a filler. It's just, it's quick, it's easy, it's charming, it's light. Essentially, you have 6 cards that are vegetable cards like cabbage and peppers and tomatoes and stuff. And then you have 3 scoring cards. And you can either take a scoring card or take 2 vegetables. That's literally all you can do. The scoring cards will be like for every tomato and every carrot you have, it'll be 2 points. And essentially at the end of the game, you look at all your scoring cards, you score all your scoring cards based off of the vegetables you got. That's the end of the game. So simple, so easy. It's a filler. It's not trying to be anything else. It's great.
We played a game of Potion Explosion, which we don't physically play very often because we have like an older version that you have to sort of assemble every time. The new ones are like, I think, plastic and easier. It has a marble delivery system. And it's super cool. So on your turn, you're going to take, it's Candy Crush, you're going to take a marble out, and then everything else will slide down. And if the 2 marbles that slide together are the same color, it causes an explosion, which means you get to collect those marbles, and then more slide down. And if the 2 that connect are the same color, that causes another explosion. You just get to collect a ton of marbles, and you're going to put them on to your potions, which need a certain amount of certain color marbles and stuff. And if you can fill out marbles on your potion completely, you complete that potion, which will be worth points for you at the end of the game, importantly. But it will also give you a one-time power. You can drink that potion, get mad, wicked lit on it, and then it'll give you some ability to do, like one is a rainbow one where you can take your marbles and put them on anything. You don't have to match for that turn. Stuff like that. Super duper cool. Really fun game where you're just trying to get these potions, make use of those potions to build these kind of combos out, and to build sets ultimately of potions of either 5 different kinds or every set of 3 of the same kind. You'll get these little mastery tokens. And then once a certain amount of mastery tokens go, the game ends. It's just really fun.
It's really good. And a great little gimmick that works and it's integral to the game.
Really good.
Play Power Grid, another Freedom Freeze game. Power Grid's a great game that we kind of were intimidated for a long time. We finally got it. It's really, really fun. Shout out to Jordan for showing it to us. And it's great. It's not the best like 2-player game because you do kind of want to be getting each other's way a little bit.
And there's like an auctioning and stuff, so it's like a more dynamic auction.
Yeah.
There's more players.
But it's still very fun. But it's a great game where essentially you're building buildings out in different cities. We have the America map, so out in America, and you have to power those cities at the end of the game. However many cities you can power, that's how you win the game. It's very, very fun. It's great. Yeah, I like it a lot.
We played the quickest version of Prodigal's Club as we ever could, except for our shelf tried to explode halfway through, so it did add some time.
It's been holding up, though.
But Prodigal's Club is a game where you are trying to lose all your friends, you're trying to lose all your possessions and money, and you're trying to lose an election. And whoever does all of those things the best or the worst wins.
Yeah.
And so it's a really interesting worker placement game where you're just trying to be horrible. And a lot of it comes down to these cards that you'll play that will give you perks in these different areas. And you're trying to balance because whatever your highest score is, which is bad, that's your score. So you need to do everything equally bad.
Yeah.
And it's just a really cool idea of like the negative point game. You're trying to be worse to be best.
Yeah.
Great game.
It's really, really good.
Really fun.
It's my second favorite game. It's great. We played The Pursuit of Happiness, another game that's a very, very theme-heavy game. This is a game, essentially the game of life, but a Euro game. You're essentially trying to live your life, trying to live the best life you can, or the weirdest life is usually what we end up doing.
That's one an interesting
But
one.
essentially, you can get relationships, you can get jobs, you can get activities, you can get like items. So you can just be like, I'm just gonna have boats, hot tubs,
spend money
and
all day,
6 boyfriends, and that's it. And you can just live that life. You may not win that way, but essentially, there are a lot of different avenues to victory. You're essentially trying to get long-term happiness. If you have an item, the bigger item you buy, it'll buy you long-term happiness. That's how you're trying to do. You're trying to get points. It's very fun, but you're always going to be getting stressed out. Eventually, you will die. You're basically trying to get the most long-term happiness before you die.
Stressful.
Super weird game, but works really, really well. And this game is here for the stories. You just end up telling these really fun stories during the game, and
That's
it's just great. We had a whole arc during the marathon, but I was like making plays. It was great.
It was really, really good. We played the Quacks at Quedlinburg, which is a straight-up push-your-luck game.
Dumb good.
That is absolutely great because it's absolutely simple and fun. And it's one of those things where like it just reminds me like it doesn't have to be complicated.
Nah.
It doesn't have to be deep. It can just be fun, and that's plenty enough. Quacks at Quedlinburg is literally that. It's just like, hey, pull a chit out. Maybe it'll give you a power. It's like, do you want to keep going? Because you could blow up your cauldron and not get points at the end of that round or not get money. It's like, I'm going to push my luck. And that's all it is. It's super fun. At the end of the round, you take some money, you buy some more chits, which go in your bag, which give you cool, fun powers and stuff. We'll hopefully make it so you pull out less of those ones that make your cauldron
You will pull
explode,
up the
but
cauldrons.
you absolutely won't. And it's just a great, simple game that's like perfectly balanced so that if you have really bad luck, the game is short and fun enough that it doesn't matter. Other games that have push your luck elements that are maybe bigger and heavier, that might be more brutal if it doesn't work out, if you're not as lucky. But in Quacks, it just works great.
Yeah, it just works out.
Fantastic.
We played Quadropolis. It's one of our favorite city building games with a cool tile selection mechanism where you have a city board in the middle with all these different tiles on different buildings, like residential buildings, parks, factories, that kind of stuff. And you essentially have these arrows, your architects.
Municipal buildings.
Yes, and you have, your architects have numbers on them, and you put it around the board pointing inwards. Whatever that number is, you count that many tiles and you grab that tile. So I put in the number 2, I count, boop, boop, I grab that tile, and then I have to put it in either the second row or the second column, which sounds like a very restrictive puzzle, and it is, but there's a lot of tiles, and you're always able to make it work, which is why I think I like this game so much, because it feels like, oh gosh, I need this specific tile, but I don't have the architects to do it, and then I have to place it in these spots, but it just works so well. It's gorgeous, the production is great. Quadropolis is one of the best city builders out there. It's amazing.
Plus, it makes me think of Bring It On, because one point in the past, we played, maybe the first time we played Quadropolis, Bring It On was on TV.
Was it really?
And so now every time I play it, I just think about Bring It On. They are forever linked in my mind.
Here's the thing. One of the best movies ever, one of the best city builders ever. They
Go
go
figure.
together perfectly.
built
Bring It
human
On is
beings
a
up.
banger. Like
Bring It
real
On is a
talk.
banger. Drop some Bring It On bangers in chat. We played Queen Domino. Queen Domino is a kind of expanded version of King Domino. Nick, you know what? Like Flatline, I learned. Nick is wise, folks. Nick's always like, I want the simpler version of the game. It's like, no, idiot. I want a more gamified version of a game.
King Domino's better.
We haven't
I've been saying
we haven't played Queen Domino in
I've been
forever.
clanging this bell.
And then I
for
finally,
freaking years.
during this thing, played Queen Domino, and I was just like, you're right, King Domino is better. I don't want more game. I keep thinking I want more game, and I don't want more game.
You don't.
And so Queen Domino is quite good.
It's
Because
beautiful.
it's King Domino in many ways
Yeah.
where you have to build out
It's
everything.
still good.
But you have these extra buildings you can build, which is super cool, but it does... It steps up from King Domino a lot. If you're thinking of King Domino, which is a 15-minute, very simple game, to Queen Domino, it's a few steps up to that.
Yeah.
It's not a complicated game, but comparatively big time. So I'm like, King Domino is better. It's just
better.
simple.
I like
Queen
them
Domino's
both.
great.
we're able to fit them both in the Queen Domino box. So for
out.
us, it's great. But it's like, no, King Domino, I've been saying for a long time, King Domino's a better game. And I'm glad that Mike's finally seen the light.
Nick is right.
We played The Quest for Eldorado, which is a great racing game by Reiner Knizia, which is super fun, great intro deck builder game. Yeah. Essentially, you have a big jungle. There's markets, there's water, and you have your little explorer or 2 explorers with the 2 players, and you're playing cards. If you play a jungle card, you essentially can hack your way through the jungle, and you're basically trying to get to Eldorado first. Really, really fun. There you have your basic cards that everyone has, but you can buy more cards, but it's very simple deck building, and that's all it is. The cards, for the most part, will just help you get through the board. There are certain boards, like if you want to go right through the center, that means the jungle is going to start getting really, really dense there. It's going to make you go slower, but it's more of a straight shot. Yeah. And so it's a lot of good decisions, and no matter what, it always ends up being a close game. Yeah. No matter how, you can be 3 tiles ahead, and it always ends up coming down to this.
You see the right set of cards in your hand at the right time.
Oh, it's great.
It's really fantastic. We played Quirky Circuits, which is a cooperative programming game where you're going to be programming different types of robots. And you're working through this like scenario book, and there's 4 types of robots that all function very differently. Yeah. And they each have like 4 or 5 different scenarios within themselves that become more and more difficult. And so we played with Gizmos, the first one, which is basically a cat riding a Roomba, which adorable.
It's great.
And you are programming it, playing these cards face down. We can't talk about what we have in our hands. If I play a card, Nick can see that this is a card that moves forward or backward, but I don't know which direction or by how much. Nick's going to play a turn card, and we are collectively trying to cover up these dust bunnies and stuff. So it's a bit of guessing, like, I think he means he went forward 2, so I think we're here. So you're trying to like visualize where the robot is so you can play a card, because everyone has to contribute at least 1 card to the program, and the program has to be at least 5 cards long. So you can't just be like, I don't have any good cards. Like, well, play something then. Yeah. It's a great game, and then you basically reveal the cards, see where your robot actually went, and then adjust and build the next thing. Very fun. Really cool game. Quirky Circuits is adorable.
Yeah, we played Raccoon Tycoon, which is a stock market game, essentially. You're getting goods. You're playing out these cards to get these goods. Then you are selling those goods. You're also trying to get like railroads and like buildings and stuff, which might give you a little bit of powers and stuff. It's a very simple stock market game that works very well. I'm always this is a game where I kind of want more to it. Yeah, I've always kind of been like, it's okay. I think it's a good game. I think it could be great, but it is just good. The art is incredible. Yeah. I think it's fine. It's good. I like it.
That's fine. We played Railroad Ink Deep Blue Edition, which was part of our Roll and Write marathon to start the marathon. This is a game we're going to be rolling out these 4 dice, and they're going to have either highways or railroads on them in different configurations, going straight and turning, having T's and so forth. And there's a station die as well, which will allow you to convert from railroad to highway and vice versa. And you're trying to build a network of railroads and highways that go to many different exits. You want to basically have one big giant connected network. And those connections will happen via those stations. And so the rules are, you roll the dice, you have to add all 4 of those dice somewhere into your network, and hopefully not have a bunch of dead ends and stuff, which will lose you points at the end of the game. Really great roll and write that's kind of tough, because you're like, oh, I need a bunch of railroads, I got only highways, what do I do? Yeah. Adapt and stuff, and you have these specials. Really great roll and write that we've had for a long time. Yeah, it was one of the first roll and writes we got. We played Raj of the Ganges, which is, I think, in both of our top 10s. It's an incredibly good game. Worker placement game. I like it more and more.
Yeah, this is a game where every time I play it, I'm like, I like it more than I did last time. This is essentially dice kind of worker placement. Dice are both like kind of your workers and your currency. You're essentially trying to build out your province and trying to get these different bonuses. You're trying to go up a river, which will get you different bonuses. And you have 2 tracks, a fame track and a wealth track. And you're trying to cross those tracks.
It's a racing game, ultimately. Not like racing.
Because once someone crosses the track, everyone gets 1 more turn. And then whoever crossed their tracks the most wins the game. So basically you're trying to, and you can go super heavy wealth and then meet fame over here, or go super heavy fame and meet wealth over here. It's kind of up to you. It's really, really fun, gorgeous game, great production quality. It's just so darn good. There's a bunch of like little tiny mini expansions for it, which are super fun because they just add little things, but the base game on its own is just so good.
Raj of the Ganges, the Dice Charmers, is a roll and write version of Raj of the Ganges. Just came out, and we added it just in time to do this marathon, and it is absolutely incredible because it's very much Raj of the Ganges in a roll and write form, where you're still trying to cross a wealth and a fame track. And you have different things that you're basically drawing on your board. You're creating paths rather than put tiles as you would in Raj of the Ganges onto a province board. You're just drawing little pathways that will get to all these bonuses. You can work up and down a river to get a bunch of bonuses. You can get goods and sell those things just like Raj's, but they all function a little bit differently. And it's combo-tastic. This will lead into that thing, which leads into that thing, which leads into that thing. You can do like 15 things on one turn if you line it all up correctly, which is very satisfying. Raj of the Ganges, the Dice Charmers, is really fun. It might become my favorite roll and write because it's
possible.
one of the ones that's based off a parent game, and I think it does that the best.
Yeah.
It's really good.
It's really good. We played Rap Gods, which is a great game.
Super simple.
Super simple.
accessible.
Yeah, this is a game where you are essentially an up and coming rapper, and you're trying to make a cool career.
You're kind of telling your story.
Yeah, you're kind of telling your story. You're essentially the game will take place over 3 rounds. You're releasing 3 albums, and you'll have these album cards. And album cards will be different things that you've done, like reading the dictionary, which increases certain skills. You have 3 skills: swag, mic skills, and street cred, essentially. And you're trying to go up these tracks. You need to go up these tracks to play these bigger, better cards. And you're essentially telling your story, trying to gain points. All the rappers have a special ability. You're from a certain city specifically, so you want to maybe collect certain cards over other cards. And it's a very, very simple game that's just got a really fun, cool theme and amazing art style. And it just works. But because it works, because it's just fun and simple, and you're just cruising and having a good time and telling a really cool story. And I just really, really like Rap Gods a lot.
Super duper cool. We played Raptor, which is another Brew Trait product.
Brew Trait.
Bruno Catala, Vincent Dutrait art, where it's a 2-player asymmetric game where one player is playing a raptor mother and her babies. One's playing a group of scientists who are trying to capture baby raptors because they're evil. And you're doing this through card play, where you're going to be playing a card and then revealing, we each have the same number of cards, and we each have powers on those cards. And you're going to reveal cards, and whoever plays the higher card is going to get some basic actions. Whoever plays the lower card is just going to get the card power, and that's it. And basically, if Nick were to play a 9 when I play a 3, Nick's going to get action points into the difference. And Nick's going to get 6 action points, which would be very bad for me because he can run around and eat a bunch of people and stuff like that. And you have different win conditions. If I'm the scientist, I want to capture 3 of the baby raptors. Nick wants to have the baby raptors escape or kill all the scientists, or I want to put the raptor to sleep is another way. So you each have 2 win conditions, and it's about playing those cards, and you have 3 in hand, and Nick's like, I'm like, Nick hasn't played that 8 in a while. I'm going to play a 7 because the 7 has a really powerful power, but it still needs to have a higher card to trigger. So there's all this like, when's Nick going to play that card? When's he going to do this? Really interesting game, Raptors.
Yeah, it's really fun. We played Round of Hero Super Battle, which is a card stacking game, which is just, again, fun. You're just building out these cards, building a giant card pyramid.
Just a house of cards.
And then you're rolling a die, and your little figure, you're trying to get up. Basically, when the tower inevitably falls, you want to have your person be the highest person, and then you win. But it's just so fun because the cards are like nice, heavy card stock, and they have walls that bend so the cards sit on them well. And you just end up building this big thing. And because like, I feel like it's more fun as an adult because you just understand certain things like, oh, if we brace this, if we have like one tower here, but if we brace them together, it'll actually make everything more solid. And you can end up making some giant structures that's really, really fun and cool. Yeah. It's just fun and silly. I inevitably accidentally hit the tower always and knock really it down.
Good, and then Nick like just nicked it with a pinky.
Yeah, it just like, I do it. One time I breathed on it too hard and it was just terrible.
It gets tricky.
But it's really fun.
We played Robinson Crusoe Adventures on the Cursed
Island.
Won.
No dome strats.
Our hardest co-op we won. We lost all the easier ones, but we won that and Gloomhaven, so we'll take that as a win.
Boom.
This is a survival game. This is a game where you are washed up on shore and you are trying to survive long enough to complete your objective. And there's, basically it is Raft. I mean, it's Raft after you hit the island.
It's not as good as Raft.
It's not as good as Raft, but it's close. In this game, you have different objectives you're going to be trying to complete, different scenarios essentially that will change the game greatly. But you're trying to explore the island to be able to find spots to set up shelter and stuff because weather is usually a factor. Bad weather can hurt you. You need to find food so you can eat because that can hurt you. And basically you can lose if any of your characters die. Basically that's it. You get injured and stuff. There's all these event cards. So it's really brutal and tough, which makes sense because you're trying to survive on a desert island essentially.
It's hard.
And it's hard to survive, but we won and we built a fire and got saved.
Hashtag no dome.
Hashtag no domes.
We played Rococo. Rococo is a great game that a lot of people, including us, were kind of big evangelists for, but now it finally got the recognition as a second edition.
And that new deluxe version is nice looking.
Yeah, it looks really, really cool. But nonetheless, it's a game where you are a garment maker and you're making beautiful dresses and beautiful suits, and you're essentially trying to give them to people so they'll go to the king's ball in your stuff, and you'll essentially gain prestige points ultimately. Yeah. But it's a cool deck builder game where you're going to have cards. You can also get more employees. Cool thing is when you get an employee, they go immediately in your hands, so you can use them, which is great. And essentially, it's a very small deck builder in terms of it's not like you don't go through your hand very often.
No.
But you do go through your cards, and essentially you're trying to make dresses and suits, and then that's going to give you points. You have to collect resources like silk and lace and thread and stuff like that. Yeah. And then you can also put in musicians and decorations to get more points. It's really, really, really good. I'm glad that it's finally getting the recognition it really deserves.
Yeah, we played Role Player, we played Base Game, which is the first time I played the base game of Role Player in quite some time. And it made me remember, like, oh man, the base game of this is really cool because this is a game where you are rolling out a D&D character, essentially. You're getting different stats of strength and constitution, all those things. But it is all kind of set in a fantastical world. Mm-hmm. So it kind of immerses you in this world while being very meta and nerdy. And you're kind of doing a lot of set collection type stuff. So there's going to be weapons and things you can buy from a market, which will give you different ways to manipulate the dice you're rolling and then placing into your stat sheet. You want each of your different attributes like strength and dexterity to be within certain ranges based on the value of the 3 dice that will be in there to score points. There's a color of dice, and if you get the colors in the right places, kind of like Sagrado, you can get bonus points that way. You can have a character alignment, which maybe you want your character to be chaotic evil to get bonus points there. And that's pretty much it. There's also some set collection with like clothes you can wear and stuff. It's a really neat game that's just awesome and meta, and you can literally roll out a character and then write down that character and then play D&D with it, which is super cool. It's just a cool feature. Yeah. So Role Player is really fun.
It's really, really good, yeah. We played Rolled West, which is a roll and write. It's a roll and write version of the game Gold West. Right. And it's a roll and write that I don't know how much I like, honestly.
We haven't actually played, you have, right? You played Gold West?
Yes, I don't remember
once.
Much,
I have not played it, but Rolled West,
it's fine.
We bought it for like $8 at a convention, something crazy cheap, and I'm like, I got my $8.
Yeah,
it can probably go now.
It's fine though, but essentially you're rolling out dice. You're going to get gold, silver, and copper, and then you're trying to. There's a bunch of different stuff you can do with it. You can like get buildings. You can like go up these different like tracks. And stuff. It's fine. There are things at this point. There's a lot of roll and writes out there, and a lot of really, really great roll and writes.
And it's not on that.
So now it's like if you're gonna have a roll and write, it's got to be a banger at this point, and this one is fine. You know,
it's fine. There's many better ones you can get.
Yeah.
Rise of the Ganges Dice Tournament. Get that. We played Rum and Bones, which is a 2-player ship-to-ship battle game where you have, you said MOBA style game. You have kind of your grunts, your little people that are just ever marching forward, and you have your heroes, which you can run around and slap people down with. This is a game that's really fun because you're trying to tear up different parts of your opponent's ship. You're trying to knock out their heroes to get these points. It's been redone in a lot of ways where, I mean, massively. It's basically a whole different game where now the whole turn structure is different and stuff, but you're trying to knock out heroes to get kind of reputation and to get to 8 points, I think it is.
I think so.
First is kind of a race to a certain amount of points, and it's just really fun because you just have these cool abilities. You can roll dice to hit, so it's ultimately a luck-driven dice chucker game, but it's a really fun one. We kept it because, like, hey, we don't have any other games that are that style. Let's keep this one because it is really fun. Every time I play it, I'm always like, I really like this. Yeah. And then I have bad luck with dice. I'm like, I don't like that. But I like the game. I just wish I had better luck.
But it's better now than it used to be because of the changes they've made. So that's great.
It's a much better game now.
We also played Rush MD, which is a real-time game where you're running a hospital and you essentially are bringing in patients to your hospital and you're trying to treat them. They have all different levels of stuff they need. There's a whole bunch of little like mini games you have to do. If they need an x-ray, you have to like bring that patient over to the x-ray machine and then do a little mini game to figure out what's wrong with them. A lot of times you figure out what's wrong. Oh, it turns out they're worse than you thought. Oh my gosh, now this person needs a new liver.
Oh God.
That's not good. And so
they have no bones.
And you only have 4 minutes for each round, and so you can't bring in too many people because if you don't treat somebody, they get worse, and you start losing your hospital starts losing points, essentially reputation points. And if your hospital ever gets down to 0, everyone loses automatically.
Yeah.
And it's a co-op game, but it's really, really good. It's a successor to Kitchen Rush. I think it's a much better game than Kitchen Rush. So much fun. I really like Rush MD a lot.
Super cool. We played San Juan, which is kind of a card-driven version of Puerto Rico, where you're going to be having different actions you can take. If it's your turn, you choose a certain action. Everyone's going to take that action, but you're going to get a better version of that action. And you're using multi-use cards, which can be placed out as buildings, which will kind of time out the game. If you do the produce action, you're going to take a card face down and place on there. And it's just a random product, but you'll never see what that card is. You can build buildings by turning in cards to build buildings and stuff. So I like the multi-use card version of this, and it's a really quick game. You just go back and forth choosing rolls and then going around until someone's built out 12, count up your points, and you're out.
Yeah, that's it.
It's cool.
We played Sanctum, which is a CGE game, kind of like Diablo and stuff like that, where essentially you're working, you have you have a hero and something. I'm a barbarian, Mike's like a
rogue or something.
Rogue or a hunter or whatever they're called. And essentially you're making your way up to the Sanctum where this big not Balrog kind of creature is. And essentially, you're going to have one big gauntlet of a fight at the end. But on your way up, you're going to be fighting all these demons. These demons, when you kill them, they turn over into loot. So different kind of boots, different kind of like chest plates, different greaves, weapons.
Dice manipulation,
and they essentially are going to give
defense.
you either like dice manipulation or defense. And then you basically are trying to gear up as much as you can, unlocking all these special abilities on your way so that in the last fight, you can hopefully make it through the last fight.
Survive.
And then at the end of the game, everyone who survived the last fight, whoever has most health, wins. But really, if you survive, I feel like everyone wins. And then it's kind of like, okay, who did the best? But it's a really, really fun game that I like a lot. It's pretty simple. It's relatively quick as well. And it's just fun. It's just hit people, they turn into loot, get that loot, go up, try to fight a Balrog.
Boom. We played Scythe, Big Boy Scythe this time. And this is a great game where you are trying to get your 6 objectives out. There's a bunch of different types of objectives. You have to get 6 stars out to end the game, and that's your biggest source of points. But you're basically moving out to different territories, which will give you different types of resources you can produce. You can choose to produce on a couple of your hexes. You can move this character around and do these encounters, or go to the factory to get this kind of superpower card. You can build mechs and then go fight stuff, or your mechs can carry people and resources around more easily. They also unlock different abilities for you. And so it's about building kind of efficiency engines. You kind of want to go and find the flow of the game. If I go to this action, I can produce a bunch of oil, and I go here and do an upgrade, which makes this thing cheaper. So when I get this over here, I can build mechs for less money, or less resources and gain more money and blah, blah, blah. So it's just kind of back and forth. You're trying to find a flow of the game, and it's really a speed game in a lot of ways, because you're trying to see like how quickly can I get all my objectives out. If I can get in 16 rounds before everyone else gets set up, I can win. So it's a really interesting game with some asymmetry with the faction that you are. And it's obviously a classic game many people know, and I was super hot on, kind of dipped down on. I'm coming back into liking it more.
I'm
now,
kind of the same boat.
As I've been playing more recently. So Scythe is great.
We played Seasons, which is a game, one of the games we had the longest. Really love this game. This is kind of an engine builder game. It's kind of a medium-ish engine builder game, but one we really like a lot. But it's also a drafting game where you are essentially putting on, was it like a festival, or what is actually the theme?
It's a festival, basically.
Yeah, whatever. It basically takes place
Magical style.
Yeah, it's taking place over 3 years, and essentially you're going to roll these big maximum chunk dice, and they're going to give you different kind of elements: water, fire, air, and earth. And you use those to put in cards, and then those cards a lot of times will give you different bonuses, give you abilities you can do, and you're essentially trying to get crystals, which are your points in the game. Really, really fun game where you draft your cards from the beginning of the game, so you kind of know what you're getting. And then you're just trying to get those dice. Whatever dice doesn't get chosen will move the year forward. It's really, really, really great. I still love Seasons. We got one of the expansions now that we've started playing with. It's just making it even better. Seasons is great.
Solid game. We played Shadows in Kyoto, which is another 2-player game that's kind of in the same world as Hanamakoji. It's another Emperor S4 game. And this one is kind of chess-like, where you have these different spies. You're moving forward to your opponent's...
Onitama-like.
Yeah, you're moving toward your opponent's end to try to get to their headquarters and stuff. And there's certain spies that are real and certain ones that are basically red herrings and stuff. So Nick can initiate combat with my people, where I can do with his, but you're trying to only capture spies that have real information, as it were. And so it's an interesting game. I don't really love chess-style games, but there is... kind of some advanced stuff that we didn't play with that give you some abilities and things,
I
which I think will be a little bit cooler. But it's just those games I always want to love more than I do. I just don't love chess-ish games as much as I think I do.
Yeah, I want to try out the special powers to see if I like it, because I'm not a huge fan of this game. And it's like, here's the thing, I hate chess. I didn't like Onitama. I don't like Stratego. I don't like these kinds of games.
Yeah,
but again, same thing, I want to. So I want to try the special abilities. Honestly, I probably won't like it, because I just don't like these kinds of games. Yeah. But it's a very cool game. It's just not my kind of jam. Yeah. Played Shakespeare. Shakespeare is one of our favorite games. It's another game we played with No, we did play the expansion. We did play the expansion.
Wow. I haven't played backstage.
Yeah, it's wild. But this is a game where you're putting on a Shakespearean play for the queen. Whoever has the best play, the queen will come see, and they win the game. And you are working on the 3 acts of the play, trying to gain prestige. You're hiring different actors and actresses. You're trying to dress them in costumes. So because they're not in costume, they can't perform. You're trying to build out your set. Very tight game where you're bidding for actions. The less you bid, the better turn order you're going to be in. Less stuff you can do. Very, very tight. It's much, much better at the backstage expansion, because it opens up the game, or really kind of completes it. But it's still a great game. I really do love Shakespeare. We've had it for a long time. We've been a big evangelist for it for a long time. It's great.
It's really great. We played Sierra West, which is Nick's favorite game from 2019. Right. This is a fantastic dice game. where it's a frontier game, which we mentioned. We
love
quite
frontiers.
like frontier games. And this one, you're going to be building out these cards. You can put these 3 cards out, which are going to give you kind of 2 pathways of actions you can take. And you have 2 little explorers that go down these paths in whatever order you want. You kind of go first on the first, and half on the second, then complete and whatever. And then on those cards, they actually have worker placement spaces as well. And you're going to gain resources like chicken and stone and wood. Occasionally get gold, which can be a wild if you have the mule with you. And then when you get to the end, you can turn in those resources to go up different tracks and stuff. And there's different modules in the game, which will give you a different focus. So the base game and the way it functions is always the same, but you might have a module where you're trying to, there's a new type of resource like apples, and you can sell apples and stuff to go up these additional tracks. Or you can try to mine a bunch of gold, or you can go fishing and get fish, or you can try to shoot outlaws and stuff. And so it's a really cool game that we always like because it's familiar in the way it functions, but there's different focuses.
Yeah.
So it's easy to implement a new module, and I really wish we would get more because it's just a really neat system.
It's a really cool system.
Sierra West is really great.
Yeah, I like it a lot. We played Silver and Gold, praise be.
Praise
Praise
be,
be for Harding. We played Silver and Gold, which is a very, very simple little roll and ride game with theme. There's no theme. Basically, it's a polyomino game. You're flipping over a card, and then that'll have some kind of polyomino shape on it. You have to mark those off.
Classic Tetris shapes, yeah.
Yeah, classic Tetris shapes. You have to mark those off on cards that you have. The cards are dry erase cards, which is super cool. And essentially, you're trying to fill in all of the spots on one of your cards. Once you do, then you basically will get to score that card. At the end of the game, you grab a new card, and that's all you're doing. There's a couple little other things for scoring, but that's literally it. You flip over a card, you put it somewhere. If you can't place something, you just get to put an X anywhere you want. That's it. Super simple, super quick, great travel game like a lot of roll and rides are. Really, really fun. It just works. It works well.
Yeah. We played Small World as well, which is a great area control game where you're going to have a different mystical races and stuff with different abilities that are smashed together, randomly assigned. So you're going to have dwarves who
are flying.
Can fly. Yeah. And it's like, great. So it's just really fantastical. And based off of the type of race and the ability, you're going to get a certain amount of units that you're going to be putting onto the board and stretching out that race as far as you can. And then eventually you're going to choose to go in decline because you're like, I don't really have any more tiles. I can't spread out to new lands because I physically don't have enough tiles to do it.
Yeah.
And so what you can do is you can go in decline and get a new race with a new ability and stuff. And then as long as that old race is still on the board, they'll still score you some points. They won't be as powerful, but then you can basically re-invade the lands. And so the lands are going to kind of change throughout the game with like who's on them and stuff. And every round you'll get points based off of how much area you control. And it's just back and forth like that. It's just fun having all these weird combinations of the ability and the race. They'll always be different. There's a million expansions, and we love it.
Yeah, it's great. We played Sonora, which is one of our favorite games of this year. Another Panasaurus game. This is a flick and write game.
So cool.
It's one of the few of these kinds of games we didn't play during all the roll and rides because this is kind of a whole separate thing. But essentially, you have a central board where you're going to flick on kind of crokinole style. It has 4 different regions. Wherever your discs end up, that's the spot where that disc is going to activate. The discs have numbers 1 through 5. So basically, I've flicked the 3 into this region. Then over on your dry erase board, those same 4 regions are there, and they all are kind of 4 little like mini games essentially. Yeah. And you're just trying to they all work very differently. And so you're trying to flick stuff in spots that you want them so you can go work on this board over here. Very combo-tastic, lots and lots and lots of combos. Cool little mini games. And the fact that like how are you right on this? Usually it's done through cards, usually it's done through dice. This one's done through flicking. Super cool, super new and fresh. It just works. I really love Sonora. It also looks good.
Yeah, it does. We played Sorcerer City, which is a kind of speed Carcassonne game where you're going to be flipping over tiles. You're going to be buying some sort of a deck building game with tiles.
Yeah.
You're going to be flipping over these tiles and trying to build up areas of certain colors that match these shields to get scoring opportunities to gain money, influence, prestige, and magic, which will become one of the other 3. And so you're under this gun, though, because you only have 2 minutes to build out your entire thing. And there's monsters that get added, which mess up your city. This is a game that I started off really high on, kind of dipped down on, and thinking like, I don't really like this game. And then I realized it's like, this game can play like 5 or 6 players. Do not do that because A, there's no table on Earth that's big enough for it.
It's true.
B, it's hard because there's all these monsters that all have different abilities, and this way over here on the end of the table is what that monster does. And you're doing a timed game where you flip over a dragon. I have to be like, how does this work?
Yeah.
I don't know. So it doesn't work well at these higher player counts, but it's cool because it is a simultaneous game, so I get why it is a higher player count game. But Sorcerer City is a really neat one if you're just trying to build out stuff and get under more and more pressure. Speed Carcassonne with magic.
Really fun. We played Space Bass. Space Base, great game, great John DeClaire game. Kind of like a little engine builder. You're building out a space base. You'll have 12 slots, so you can roll a die. You can activate the slots. And essentially, you're buying new ships that go in your space base. And whenever you buy a new ship, say that ship goes in slot 7, you'll take the card there, flip it around, put it behind your board, put that new card there. The cards that are behind your board activate on other people's turns. So it's nice because there's no real downtime, because when Mike is rolling, I look over to see, like, oh, he rolled 6. Okay, I have a card behind my 6 slot. Great. I can then activate that card. So you're always doing stuff on other people's turns. It's really, really great. I like it a lot. It's really fun. We just got the Shy Pluto expansion, so I'm excited to try that kind of stuff. Oh, yeah. But yeah, we really like Space Base. I think it's a really, really fun game that just works.
Super cool. We played Stellar, which is a 2-player game where you are building you're observing the stars and stuff. And so you're going to be playing 11 rounds. We're going to be adding a celestial being card, which it might be like a black hole or a star or planet or interstellar clouds or moons and things. And then you're going to have a notebook. And so it's going to be kind of similar to, like we talked about, Herbaceous, where if I play one thing to my telescope, the next card I play has to go to my notebook, or vice versa. You'll be putting one into each area on your turn. And what's in your telescope will be, you want to have different areas that all the moons have to be touching each other. All of your black holes have to be connected in some way or another. And then you're going to take however many stars are on all of those printed cards, and you're going to multiply based off what's in your notebook of the same type. So I need to have moons in my notebook and create hopefully a run of 1, 2, 3, 4 of those cards to multiply what I have in my telescope.
It's a very weird puzzle
game.
Yeah.
It's really interesting, but really fun 2-player game that I kind of was like, what's this going to be? And I played it, I was like, this is really cool.
Really fun, yeah.
Really cool.
We played Stone Age, kind of classic worker placement game. Really, really fun game that we've had for a while. Really, really still enjoy. It's basically, you're starting to the Stone Age. You kind of have to spend a lot of your time eating as you kind of progress through the game. You start getting better and better at stuff. So you're like, okay, food isn't as much of a problem. Now I can allocate some of these workers to go try to get some brick or some wood or some gold to essentially make these buildings, which are going to give you a lot of your points. You can also get cards, which give you some kind of set collection. You can get more workers. You can move up the agriculture track. It's just very, very classic is really what it is at this point in terms of worker placement. Definitely. It's very, very fun. It's got a bit of push of your luck because you can put a worker there and you roll 1 die for every worker there. But the more expensive, the more valuable the goods are, the less you'll get and stuff like that. So it's a very, very fun game that just works. It's classic for a reason, been around for a long time for a reason. It's good. We played about the worst game we played of Stop Thief in quite some time. Yeah, we're good at this game too. We couldn't find the criminals. We started off hot on their trail, and then they got away, and we just could not find them at all. And we actually lost. They stole all the money, and we got only a couple of them. And it just was bad. This is a game where you use auditory clues that are provided from an app from Restoration Games, our proud sponsor. Boom! And they will give you a clue like people walking inside going tick, 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 or they might open up a door, go or break a window. And based off of the sequence of those things, it starts to become more and more narrow as to like, where could they be? Yeah. Based off of like these spaces, this is all indoor spaces. There's no doors anywhere near. So it can't be that room because they would have hit a door. There's no door there. So you start to figure out where they are, and you have to go try to make arrests on spots. You type in the right number and see if you make an arrest or you missed them, which makes you lose money because you arrested some innocent. It's a great game that we love to play cooperatively. You can play competitively. You can play 1 versus all. It's a great family game. Stop Thief's great. Yeah, it's really, really good. Love it. We played Suburbia. We do have the collector's edition. Really, I love Suburbia. Suburbia is my favorite city builder game. It's great. We have the collector's edition because it's one of the first games we got us into the hobby, and we really wanted it. And it's a very fun version of the game to play. One of the games that helped us understand the concept of expansions as well. Yes. We literally because Nick, the first time he played, not to tell stories, he played Suburbia Inc. The Suburbia Inc. expansion, did not know. I didn't know that. So we get Suburbia, and we open up like, where are the borders at? I had told Mike, I was like, oh, there's all this cool stuff. And then I was like, where's all this stuff? Turns out there was an expansion that game I didn't know about. We're more game for this game? Oh, that's cool. Suburbia is great. It's a city builder. You have hex tiles that are different parts of the city, like a gas station or an office building. And adjacency really matters. You want to put stuff next to certain stuff, don't want to put stuff next to certain stuff. It's great. Suburbia Inc. expansion is wonderful. The collector's edition is great because it's got everything in it. It's really, really pretty. Yeah. It's one of the few games we've ever gotten. We don't do collector's edition stuff. We got for this one because it's just great. Super cool. We got a game of Sushi Roll In, which is a dice version of Sushi Go by Praise BFO Walker Harding. This one you're doing drafting and stuff just like you would in Sushi Go, trying to get different sets of sushi types. But now you're doing it based off of dice. So you're going to roll out dice, put them on your little conveyor belt. Then you're going to choose one of those dice in turn order to add to your little menu, which will be what you score. And then you pass your dice around and then re-roll them. So this game we really enjoy over Sushi Go because it's easier to track because you actually do the player turns in order versus simultaneous. So you can't get ahead of each other.
and then you have to pass stuff around. And the cool thing is you see what types of dice are available. And every turn you roll those dice. You don't know what's going to come up, but you know what can come up.
Yes.
So that's what's kind of cool is like, I'm going to go for this. I'm going to go to Wasabi because there's a lot of dice that will give me Nigiri. So I have a good chance of making this happen because I have some information. Really great. So
yeah, really great.
Hard.
We played Tales of Glory, which is again another kind of evangelism game that we have. It's a great tile laying game where you're essentially
action selection.
Yeah, simultaneous action selection. There's all these tiles out in the middle of the board. You have different cards have different numbers on the different where the different tiles are. You're just flipping over at the same time, and you don't want to choose the same spot as someone else. And essentially, you grab tiles and then you put them in your growing tableau. You want to put certain stuff next to other stuff. It's just simple and it works really, really well. And this is kind of one of those games that you just introduce it to people and they're always just like, man, that was really, really good. And I can't necessarily pinpoint why it works so well, but it just does. It's got kind of generic theme, generic look, which I think hurts it a little bit. But it's a really, really good game that I really, really enjoy.
We played Targi, which is a 2-player worker placement game where you have a border of cards that have action spaces on it and a bunch of cards in the middle, which might be caravan cards giving you goods, or tribal expansion cards, which give you cards that you're going to ultimately build into a tableau in front of you for some set collection and points, your main source of points. In this game, we're going to go back and forth placing one worker at a time on the edge of the board. There's some rules about where and where you cannot place your figures, and then basically based on that, your target figures will create these little intersections on those middle 9 cards where you put tribe markers, and then Nick will go or I'll go, whoever's first player, and you take all your actions in whatever order you want to get goods to ultimately build those tribal cards. And it's just super interesting, really cool idea, the back and forth nature and the way that you can't go across from each other. So the 2-playerness is very tactical and kind of in your face. I really want to try the expansion because it does seem to kind of breathe a bunch of new life into the game. Basically makes a new game out of it. So I really want to try that. But Targi is fantastic.
You play the Taverns of Tiefenthal, another Wolfgang Warsch game. This is a game, kind of a really cool deck builder game where you are essentially have a tavern. You're trying to upgrade your tavern and try to attract more and more guests. As you go, you're bringing out cards. Your cards will either be guests that take up space in your tavern. Once your tavern's full, you can't draw anymore. Or they're going to be employees who work in your tavern. You want the employees because it means you can do more stuff. And then you have some dice drafting as well, which will allow you to activate certain things. But essentially, you're going to be getting money. You're going to be getting beer. Money is what you use to buy more employees and to upgrade your tavern, although upgrading your tavern is very expensive. And you use beer to attract new guests. The new guests might give you some extra stuff, might give you some more dice placement spots. Very, very cool game. I will say the one thing about this game is you can get just screwed by a bad draw.
There's no manipulation.
There's no mitigation, really. A little bit, but it's just like there's not enough, in my opinion. It's still a really, really fun game. It's got a bunch of different little modules. Just play with all of them. They really all enhance the game, and none of them are very big. Taverns of Tiefenthal is really great, though.
We played Tekenu Obelisk of the Sun, which is another board and dice big T game by Daniel Tascini and company. And this one is super cool. So you are like a lot of these games building out different things. You can build statues, you can build buildings, you can increase your population and your happiness. There's all these different avenues to get to points and stuff. You can build this temple complex out, but it's this interesting dice drafting system where there is an obelisk in the middle of the board. They have different dice, and based on where the sun is shining, certain dice will be available, certain ones will be considered pure or tainted or forbidden, meaning you can't take them. And whatever die section you take from, you can either produce resources with that die, or you can make use of the god action that's associated with that. So basically kind of point to that area of the board. And everything is super tight. Resources are super hard to come by.
Harsh.
Everything is tight in terms of time and everything like that. So you're trying to make the best of what you can. But it's a really fun game that I've enjoyed more and more the more I've played it.
Yeah,
it's really fun.
Absolutely.
It's a tough one.
We played Mike's favorite game of all time, which is Teotihuacan.
Bam!
City of the Gods, which is it's a great game. It's Mike's favorite game. It's up there for me as well. It's so fun. During the marathon, we played it. We were playing it quick, so we didn't play anything, but recently we played with all the expansions. Again, we played it this month as well, so we'll talk about it right now. It's like played with all the expansions, which was super fun. Teotihuacan is just so darn good. It just is. I mean, it's his favorite game. I think it was in my top 10. It's great.
It's really exciting, man. I really like it. I'm excited for the new expansion coming out this year. We got Terraforming Mars, which is another classic. This one we did play with Prelude, the expansion, because it actually speeds the game up a little bit. So we're like, well, we're going to use that expansion. Sort of jumpstarts your game. This is a game, it's an engine builder where you're trying to get different types of production of resources, money and steel and titanium, plants. And you're doing this to terraform the planet. You want to increase the oxygen to 14%. You want to get the temperature up to a nice 4 degrees degrees Celsius, so you're above freezing.
You know.
That's never going to be hot there, but you get that, and you can get a certain amount of oceans out there to sustain life and stuff, and basically make this a livable planet. And you can get terraform rating and points based off of what's on the board at the end, and then kind of the terraform rating will be your starting place for your points. It's just a really great classic game for a reason. It's fantastic to build up that production and end up with a ton of stuff coming in at the end of the game, and it's great.
Yeah, it's great. It's popular for a reason. We played Ticket to Ride Nordic Countries, which is our favorite version of Ticket to Ride, but it's Ticket to Ride. Ticket to Ride's great. This one takes place in the Nordic countries, Sweden, Norway, Finland, and Denmark. And you're just building out paths, and building out routes just like normal Ticket to Ride. It's really, really fun. It's only 2 or 3 players, so the map is a lot tighter because 2-player Ticket to Ride on the America map, it's too open. And this is really, really nice. It's wonderful. And plus we're Norwegian, so we like that. It's got a cool Christmas theme to it. It's great.
We played Tides of Madness, which is a 2-player drafting game where you're going to be drafting these different Cthulhu-type cards. Ultimately, do some set collection.
Yeah.
As always, I went insane because you can go insane in this game, and Nick makes me go insane every time.
I do every time.
I don't seem to know how to not go crazy.
Sure.
But I had a fun time. So basically, a lot of cards will provide a certain suit and then give you the options of scoring different suits. So usually the card itself will not help it score itself.
Generally, yeah.
So you might want to play this card so you can have a bunch of these red and green cards, and each set of red and greens will give you 5 points and stuff. But certain tentacle cards, which most cards have, will give you madness, which can be good because if you get the most madness at the end of a round, you get bonus points.
And the best cards almost always have madness.
You go crazy, and the stronger cards. So it's a drafting game, 2 players straight up, really cool. Tides of Madness.
We played Tiny Epic Dinosaurs, which they're one of the newer of the Tiny Epic games. There's a billion of them now. But nonetheless, this is one where you're dinosaur ranchers, and you're essentially raising dinosaurs to then sell through contracts and stuff like that. Really fun little game, tiny little meeples. But it's cool because you can essentially get these specialty dinosaurs, which give you special powers and stuff like that. You're trying to manage your food and trying to feed them. You can breed dinosaurs. Yeah. It's a very tight balancing act that works really, really well. It looks great like all the Tiny Epic games do. It's in a very small package, just like all the Tiny Epic games are. Yep. It's great. I like it a lot.
We played Tiny Epic Quest as well, which is just a fantasy theme questing Tiny Epic game. In this game, you're going to be moving around heroes to different areas to fight goblins, to learn magic spells. You can go through these little temples to get legendary items and stuff like that. It's a really fun, cute game. Sort of press your luck. Because you're rolling dice during the adventure phase, the night phase, and the longer you stay in, the more beat up you get and stuff. And you can only get spells if you manage to get around to your turn and choose to rest and then go back. So there's a few kind of push your luck, I want to keep going because it's starting to get better. I might be able to learn a better spell if I hang in, but if I get knocked out, I don't get anything. And it's a really fun little game, Tiny Epic Quest.
Yeah, it's great. We played Tiny Towns. We're in the tiny area right now. Tiny Towns, which is a great, kind of it's almost like a roll and write kind of game.
Yeah.
Where you are calling out different resources like stone, glass, brick, that kind of stuff. And you're essentially trying to get these different resources on your little board in certain patterns. And if you build a certain pattern like glass, brick, and then wheat, you then can build a building. All the buildings are out and they all require different patterns of resources. Once you do that, you get to take off all the resources and put a building down in one of those spots that the resources were. Yeah. But the problem is, as you build more stuff, you can't put resources where buildings are. So your town starts getting more and more tiny and starts getting cramped. And you have to try to work around stuff. But it's tough because a lot of times you don't get the resources you need. So you're trying to have to adapt on the fly constantly. The different buildings all want different stuff. They might want to be next to stuff, be in certain rows or certain columns, or not be in certain rows or columns or whatever. Very, very fun. I really, really like Tiny Towns. It's also a great game that we can play on Twitch because anybody can play it with you, which is great. So I really like Tiny Towns a lot. And we just got the expansions. I'm really excited to try them.
Really excited. We played Traintopia, which is a board and dice game that's not a humongous T game, but it is a T game.
That's right.
And this one, you're going to be building out kind of routes of trains using these tiles, kind of Carcassonne style. We have to make the landscape make sense and stuff like that. You can't have trains running into grass. That would be deadly.
It'd be crazy.
And you're trying to build out these different routes, and then you can score elements on those routes of train tracks kind of when you want, but if you score a certain element, you can't score it again. So you have to kind of wait and stuff. There's 3 different types of commuters, which basically if you have a yellow commuter, everything that you pass through that's yellow, you'll get some money and stuff. Money are your points, or rather points are your points, and there's also money.
That is true. Yes.
They look similar. So you're kind of choosing when do I want to trigger this thing? Because those commuters and stuff that are available are not always around. Each round, those wooden elements are going to change. So you're do I want to take it for sure thing now? Do I want to wait? Hopefully later I'll get another yellow when I really have a lot going on. So there's kind of some pressure luck in choosing when to trigger different stuff, which is really interesting. Then there's kind of the spatial puzzle of laying out those tiles to complete tracks and stuff like that. I really like this game. I think it's really neat.
I think it's fun. I think it's fun. It's a game that I wasn't sure about until we played it. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
We played Trajan. Trajan is another Stefan Feld game, gorgeous game. This is kind of a cool, it's got a very interesting kind of rondelli type.
Each player on your player board has a little set of little action spaces.
Yeah, it's kind of like 5 tribes in that way. It's kind of Moncala, not Rondell. I was thinking Moncala. Where you're essentially picking up these little hexagon kind of things, and you're essentially dropping them off wherever you land. That's the actions you get to do, and essentially you're building out your little kingdom. You're getting goods, trying to get some sets. You're like sending your general out to different regions. Theme. You're getting different parts of the forum theme. Theme stuff, and so you're doing theme stuff.
Point avenues.
Theme stuff for point stuff. And then you do point stuff and you win the game. But it is really, really fun. And the action selection system with a kind of Moncala going around is a very tough little puzzle, but it's very fun.
We played Trees Magistus, the ultimate formula, way too late at night after having not played it for way too long.
It was like 2 a.m.
It was the worst possible game to play during a marathon where you're trying to play as quick as you can.
Yeah.
In this game, you're alchemists and stuff, and you're trying to do experiments and things. It's another board and dice, big, heavy tea game.
Ew.
So in this one, you are trying to transmute materials into other materials because you're alchemists, like I said. You're trying to basically get the right types of materials to fulfill contracts, or those experiments, which get you points. You can move up tracks by doing these transmutations. And it's all going to be based on these dice that you take from the central board, which will give you a certain basically type of resource and its potency based on the amount of dice in the little tray you take it from. And there's a bunch of things that it's like, I need to play this again. I need to take some time to really get dug into the rule book, really get solid on what it is, and then play it, because I think it'll be really enjoyable, but it's tough to get into. It's just straight up hard.
It's hard.
To play.
Yeah,
and especially when you're under the gun, it's not a good game.
And it's
for that.
2 a.m. on day 6. Yeah, it was a rough time.
And that's the best I can say. I can't tell you what happened. Apparently I won. I don't know how I did.
Yeah, that's true. We played Tussie Mussy, which is a very small game, especially considering the absolute antithesis. This is a game where you are essentially collecting flowers, and it's a little set collection game, very, very quick. Little button shy game, so it comes in a little button wallet. It's a very, very fun little game. Again, it's a tiny little game. It's a micro game. It's got 18 cards in it or whatever. Yep. And essentially you're trying to collect flowers. Certain flowers would be like, for every red flower you get this amount of points.
They'll have their own little scoring condition.
Yeah, their own little scoring condition. And you're essentially just trying to score the most points. You do a couple rounds. That's it. It's great.
Super good. We played Zulk in the Mayan Calendar, which I absolutely love. We played it once a while back.
He didn't put it on his top 100 though, so he doesn't like it that much.
I forgot about it. That was embarrassing, but it would have been on the top 100. It would have been quite high on the top 100 if I do say so myself. But Zulkin is a super cool game. Another T game by Daniel Tashini.
Hilarious.
From CGE. And in this game, you're going to be putting workers onto these different gears. And then those gears are going to move forward to move to new and better action spaces. The longer they're on the gear, the better. And there's different areas. One, you can get corn and wood. Over on another one, you can get different resources. On another gear, you can build buildings and monuments, which is ultimately what you're trying to do, is build stuff. There's Chichen Itza, where you can drop crystal skulls off for points. It's just a super cool game that plays with the idea of time. You literally are waiting, and the longer you stay on a gear, the better the action spaces become. But how long are you willing to keep workers on your gears? Because on a turn, you have to put something on a gear or take something off.
That's it.
You have to do one of those two things. Zulkin is really cool.
It's really, really cool.
Maybe the most unique game ever.
It's so the action selection part is so cool. We played Underwater Cities, which is a Vladimir Suki game where you are building out underwater cities. Kind of like it's similar in some ways to Terraforming Mars. The fact that they're very different games, but just in terms of the engine building part of it, they're kind of similar in that way. But it's cool. You have a couple different spots where you can put your action tile out essentially, and you can play cards and you do something. You're essentially trying to create underwater cities, trying to create different kinds of plants like desalination plants, algae plants or farms or whatever they're called or something like that. And
kelp farms.
Kelp farms. There you go. Kelp, that's the word. And trying to put out cards and score points. But it's a really, really fun game. An expansion I really want to try. This is another game we were playing very late at night. So when we were playing, I was kind of like, oh, it's late. I'm tired. I want to go home. And so but Underwater Cities is ultimately a very fun game. And a game I really want to play again soon because I want to play it just right, let's just play.
Yeah.
Let's just play.
Absolutely. We played some Unearth, which is a cool game where you're going to be rolling out one of your dice on a turn and adding its value to one of these ruin cards, and hopefully to meet a threshold. Like this ruin card needs to have 13 worth of dice pips on it. And multiple players can contribute to this thing, but if I have the most of the contributions to that ruin, I get to collect that ruin. There's some set collection there. But then whoever doesn't win, that basically will get some stones. Or if you roll really low, 1 through 3, we'll get you these stones. And if you get these stones, you can make rings of stones, which you can basically build wonders and stuff, which might give you in-game abilities, will give you end-game points. And it's going to be based off the colors that are around. So the cool thing is, like, if you roll badly, you still get something.
Yes.
If you roll well, you still get something. So it's always useful to do stuff. And it's simple. You can play these kind of Delver cards to boost up your turn, roll a die, add to things, and you have some set collection in the end. Really simple, really cool game.
Yeah, it's really cool. The really cool art style as well.
Yeah.
We played Unmatched, which is also by our sponsor daddies, Restoration Games. Thank you, sponsor daddy. We played Unmatched, which was a really, really great tactical 1v1 game where you take a hero from somewhere. Could be really anywhere at this point. It could be
Myth,
Raptors
legend,
from Jurassic
television.
Park. It could be King Arthur. It could be all sorts, all over the place.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
And it's just 1v1, and you're trying to kill the other person's hero through card play. It's really, really, really great with the best art in any board game series ever. Yeah. It's just incredible. Really, really fun game that if you haven't checked out, give it a shot, because it's, at this point, there's so many different characters. It's just so much fun. It really is.
Wacky
so
combos.
quick. 5 minutes to teach, 20 minutes to play, and you can just start choosing. There's like 18 characters now. You can just choose any one, play on any map. It just works.
Super cool. We played Valley of the Vikings, which is another Hobbit game that's really fun, has dexterity. It's literally bowling with Vikings.
Yeah.
You have a Viking paddle, and you hit this big ball, which can run into these 4 different color barrels. And sometimes you're trying to hit certain colors and not others and stuff. So there's a dexterity element. And basically, whatever barrels you knock over, there are the 4 player colors on this little dock. And if their color barrel gets knocked over, they move forward 1 space, jumping over any other people that are in front of them, if they're directly in front of them, not counting that movement. And then you're going to be moving, and then the spaces that they're on will give you coins, allow you to steal coins from other players and various different things. And then eventually one person's going to get launched off the dock, and that's going to trigger when people get stuff. And you're trying to have the most coins at the end of the game. So there might be times where I get to gain coins from the general supply. I can steal from Nick, which is good for me. There's sometimes I can steal from everybody. Yeah. And so it's just this goofy game because you're trying to like knock over these barrels.
It's so much fun.
It's Viking bowling. It's great.
It's real fun.
It's really good.
The next game we played was my favorite game, which is Viticulture. Viticulture is a game where you are running a vineyard. It's a worker placement game. It's my favorite game. I've talked about it a billion times because I love it. It's really, really good. But it is my favorite game. It's a worker placement game, again, where you're building out your vineyard, trying to fulfill wine orders. They might want red wine, white wine, sparkling wine, blush wine, whatever. Different kind of stuff. It's got a very linear path to it, which I really like about it. It's great. I love it.
It's super good. We played War of the Rings 2nd edition. I lost handily.
You did, a little bit.
The Free Peoples.
That's a game you don't want to know dome.
You don't want to know dome that game.
You don't want to know dome War of the
Rings.
Ring.
A lot of dome, but we played it. That was our longest game of the marathon, as you can expect.
81 minutes, yeah.
81 minutes. Super fun. War of the Ring is so cool because it's a really great game regardless. But if you know Lord of the Rings and like Lord of the Rings, there's every
so
little
satisfying.
card, every little thing is this specific part of the books where it's incredibly redeeming and satisfying to be like, oh, you know, this character's that thing, you know.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I really want to play this again now that we've kind of got it back in our heads.
Yes.
We should play it at some
Well,
point
it's been
before
one,
4 years
it's one of those things
pass
where
again.
it's like, when we tried to play it last couple years ago, we weren't as used to heavy big games.
No.
Now we played again. I'm like, this game's not that bad because we're just used to having those big
Yeah.
games in our heads.
The first couple times we tried to play it, we weren't ready for it.
It was like one of our first games. Yeah.
Super good. The War of the Ring rips.
Yeah,
Super
War of the
cool.
Ring's
Epic.
rips.
It's in our favorite world.
We got Welcome to Dino World, which is another dinosaur theme park game, but this one's a roll and write. Yeah. And this is kind of one of the more involved roll and writes we have, which I do like about it. But essentially, you are rolling out, someone will roll out the dice, everyone will get those dice, and those dice allow you to do different stuff. If you have, like if you want to build a Triceratops, you need a 4, 5, or 6. Okay, cool. If you have a 4, cool, you can put a Triceratops somewhere. And you have to make pens for them in your little grid. You then have to power those pens because you need to make sure they can't escape. There are different facilities you can get, which will give you kind of like little special powers or extra scoring. There's going to be visitors that are in between each set of players, and you're each kind of vying for those visitors. So you'll have sets on either side. So I'm trying to get these ones, because it's a race to get them.
Based off what's in your park, yeah.
And they can escape. There's like a light mode, and a danger mode. They're both really fun. The danger mode's a little more intense, but that's what's nice about it. But it's really, really fun. There's a ton of different kinds of cards and facilities, so there's a lot of replayability. It's a really good game.
We played Welcome 2.
Which we haven't played in a while, dude.
I haven't played in a while.
I like Welcome 2.
It's a build your suburb game. It's a flip and fill game that's really fantastic. For a long time, it was our favorite roll and write, and it's really right up there still. So in this one, you're going to be flipping over 3 cards. You're going to choose a card, which is going to have a number on it and then a power that's associated with it. And that number is going to be an address you have to put on one of the houses in your street or one of your 3 streets. And the rules are simple. Numbers have to keep going up. You can't have a 6 and then have a 4 to the right of that, because that's not how addresses work.
Yeah.
And then you can make different abilities like working on the landscaping on a street, building fences to create groups of houses. You can increase the value of those groups of houses. You can build pools and
Pool
stuff.
life.
And it's just a super duper fun flip and fill game that is on the more involved side. So you got to know that there's a bit of rules overhead and stuff, but it's a really cool, fun, tough flip and fill roll and write game.
It's really good. Another game that I think is criminally underrated is Wendake. I really like Wendake, a game that came out and went immediately under the radar and no one ever talks about it, and they should, because it's incredible.
Yeah.
This is a game where you are a tribe of Native Americans and you are essentially just trying to live, and so you are fishing, you're hunting, you can go against other tribes, trading, you're trying to get some area control. There's a lot of different stuff, but it's got this really, really amazing action selection system where you have these 9 tiles and you can activate tic-tac-toe style, 1 row either diagonally or a column or a row, and then those will flip over, and then all your tiles will slide down, so the ones on the bottom will come off. You'll get a new, better tile, and they'll shuffle them up, put them on top, so your tiles are constantly doing this, so your actions are always changing their places. It just works so well. The area control is simple. There's not like dice rolling for the fighting. It's like, no, if I have more people, I win kind of thing. It's very easy.
And everyone loses stuff.
It's just a 1-for-1. If I have 2 people, he has 1 person, I keep 1, the other 2 go away. It's very, very simple, but it works so well. And it just, no one talks about it, and they should, because it's really, really great.
It's odd. We also played Wingspan, which is a game that everyone talks about.
Yes.
It's about bird watching.
It's also good. Yeah.
About what kind of birds you see. It's a simple engine building type game. Again, maybe the engine building on that medium level.
Yeah, but
And it's lightweight. In this game, you're going to be playing birds out onto this tableau in front of you, and they need to be in certain types of lands. There's kind of the woods, kind of marshlands, and then the wetlands. And certain birds want to be in certain areas. You have to kind of lure them in with certain types of foods or resources like rats and worms and stuff.
Worms!
And then when you get these birds in your area, they're going to make the types of actions you do better, because the woods area action allows you to get food dice and get more resources. Or the middle wetlands or marshlands gives you eggs, and there's ones that let you draw cards. The more birds you have in any one of those areas, the better that action becomes. And then a lot of the birds have little actions themselves. And when you trigger that action, the draw cards action, you will also trigger all the birds that are applicable in that row. So it becomes, you get to these big kind of combos and turns. Which are really satisfying. Wingspan's great.
Yeah, it's really good. We played World's Fair 1893, another World's Fair themed game. Love that theme. There should be more games about the World's Fair.
Should be.
But nonetheless, World's Fair 1893 is a little area control game that goes real quick, where essentially you are trying to control different parts of the World's Fair, like the agriculture part or the art part. You're trying to have more of your supporters there than anyone else. Yeah. Whenever you go to one of those spots, you get to gain cards that will relate to one of the different sections of the World's Fair. And then at the end of each round, you look at each spot. Whoever has majority there essentially gets to turn in cards to get these little cardboard chits, which essentially then boils down to set collection. The more sets you have, the more points it's worth. It's very, very simple, very easy, very quick, scales really well, and it just works.
It does. We played Wreck Raiders, which is an interesting game where you are going to be taking dice, and then you can move your little divers. You have some divers that are kind of different shipwrecks and stuff, and you're trying to get treasure and things. There's these little 4 stacks of tiles, and you are trying to complete these kind of contracts, which will require certain colors of tiles in a certain order to kind of complete these like exhibits. You can take the tiles and put them into your kind of little treasury instead, which will want kind of different things. You can build aquariums with shells and stuff you collect, which will also be worth points. So it's a nice, fun, light game where you can kind of focus on different areas to get points and stuff. Yeah. Really cute, really interesting, with an accessible level to it all that I really enjoy. Wreck Raiders is awesome.
Yeah, Wreck Raiders. We played Yukon Airways, which is kind of like a Castell version of a game where you have all these rules and these limitations, but then you get a way to break all those rules, which is super fun. But essentially, you are a pilot, and you are essentially bringing people all the different parts of the Yukon, which is a very desolate area. There's not much stuff in there, so you have to get to everywhere by plane. Yeah, you gotta fly there. No cars. And so it's a very, very cool game with a really great look where essentially you're drafting these dice, which then allow you to then drop off passengers on these different parts of the Yukon. It just works super well. It's cool. And again, it's just got that great idea of like, hey, here's all these restrictions. And also here's a way to break all those restrictions. It's just a very satisfying way to play a game. And Yukon Airways is great. It's also probably got the best cover ever.
It is beautiful. We also finished our marathon on Zombicide Black Plagues. This is the last game of the marathon. We got to finish it on stream with people. Zombicide is like the first Kickstarter we did, or among the very first.
We actually bought the first one, just straight up, but it introduced us to Kickstarter.
Yeah, the second season on Kickstarter, we're like, what is this? It's a big minis game from CMON where you have a bunch of hordes of zombies that are continually spawning, and you're trying to kill those zombies and level up your characters, which is a super cool thing because you get more actions, you get better versions of those actions, bonus actions. And you're trying to complete objectives and scenarios. Each scenario will be set up a little bit different with these boards. You're trying to flip over objectives, do different things to win the scenario. Big co-op game, dice chucker, super fun. Zombicide is just a cool time.
We have a great time.
And
that was the end. Sorry, what?
That's everything that we played in the marathon.
That was 203 games. Wow. But here's the thing. December wasn't over, so we kept playing games. So Mike, what I think we should do is Mike played more games than me in December. So I'll go through my list. A lot of these games I've played with you.
Cool.
And then all the stuff that is on your list is not on my list. You can talk about.
Okay, I'll see how many there are. Yeah, there's a couple.
There's a couple. Here.
Go ahead.
So first thing we played was The Crew. We played Crew with two of our good friends down here in LA. We talked about The Crew. That's right. Really good game. Oh, sorry. We were talking about that. Never mind.
Talk about things we haven't talked about, Nick.
Sorry, I'm getting all lost.
This is double reviews.
New territory. I played Gloomhaven Jaws the Lion. I actually finished Gloomhaven Jaws the Lion actually a couple of days ago with my roommate. Really fun. Spoiler, everyone gets decapitated at the very end.
It's weird.
That's how the story ends.
Weird.
Everyone in town just gets decapitated. It's
like,
really weird.
Rogue One, like you can't have any of those characters survive because then they're like, why aren't they in Star
exactly.
Wars?
So everyone gets decapitated. They don't. I'm not going to tell you. It was really fun though. It was really great. We played Cubitos, which is another Johnny Clare game, racing game. Man, this game is fun.
It's really fun. It's all these dice. It's like a push your luck game. You get all these different types of dice, which will help you move your little racer around. You're trying to finish the race first. And they all the dice will give you different abilities and stuff, and each of the colored dice and style of dice have multiple versions of their cards, and so there's a lot of variability in here, but it's a really fun, goofy racing game. Really like it.
Yeah, it really, really works. We played Viscounts of the West Kingdom. Yes! We played it digitally, and then we got it physically, and we played it last night physically, and oh, it's good.
It's really good, really great game to round out the West Kingdom trilogy. It's fantastic. It's a slow motion deck builder game where you're moving around doing different actions. It's kind of on the level difficulty wise of Paladins of the West Kingdom. I think it's really good.
Yeah, it's really, really fun. The Rondello, it's very interesting, very different game than all the rest of them. It's really, really good. We played Castles of Tuscany, Mikey.
Yes.
I actually got Mikey for Christmas, Castles of Tuscany.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really fun.
It's Ticket to Ride version of Castles of Burgundy. It's super cool. You're using these cards now to place out different tiles and stuff. Super simple game, really quick turns.
Yes.
You get like a little bit of ability to kind of power up your person and stuff. And all of the little things that you play out, the little hexes, trigger stuff, just like in Castle of Burgundy. Yeah. I think it's really fun and satisfying.
It's a really fun, very quick, very, very good. Feels kind of like Castle of Burgundy, but it's a very, very different game. Thing. Very, very nice game. I like it a lot. We played Coloma, which is the game that Mike got me. My birthday is the 21st of December. His is January 11th. Christmas is in the middle. There's a lot of gifts around this time. Mike got me Coloma, which is a game we've wanted to try. It's a Johnny Pack game with some Miko art. Man, I really like this game. This is another Frontier game.
Yeah, it's another Frontier game. It's a simultaneous selection game where you're secretly choosing one of these 5 little locations in the center to go to carry out certain actions, like you can move your little wagon around to different areas. You can go fight some outlaws. You can build buildings, which are your cards, which is super good and important. You can survey rivers and build bridges, which give endgame scoring. Is you're trying to go to places that no one else goes to.
Yes.
Because if the most people go to one spot, that area busts.
But it's not...
Which isn't the end of the world.
It is the end of the world. And you can actually even plan your strategy around that. But it is a very interesting way...
Bus strats.
Yeah, bus strats. Hashtag bus strats. It's a very interesting way you choose stuff. I really liked it a lot. I'm really excited to explore it more. Mikey, You played Honey Buzz.
Honey Buzz.
This is Mike's treat himself game.
It is a treat myself game. This is a bee economic game where you are building out a hive to trigger a bunch of different actions to ultimately forage around to find different types of nectar to make different types of honey. And you are trying to then sell that honey to the market straight up.
You realize that you're like, hey, these bears and raccoons,
keep
they're going to
eating
steal
my
our
hives.
honey,
I
so
can
let's just sell it to them.
I can sell it to them.
They would be dumb
discover
rich.
Economics.
Yeah.
And you are trying to fulfill contracts or sell these honeys and pollen and stuff that you find and create to get money to win. It's really cute.
Yeah, really
fun,
cute game.
Puzzly.
Great production quality.
Casually thinky, as Nick mentioned.
Yeah, casually thinky. Thinky, but not killing yourself thinky. Just casually, relaxingly thinky. Very, very nice. We played Murph.
Murph,
the Heart of the Silk Road.
Good one. That's all right, dude.
Heck yeah. Murph, which is a new game we just got and played it, and it's really, really fun. I like this game. Murph is a city of the Heart of the Silk Road, so it's a lot of trading kind of stuff, but it's got a really cool action selection system that kind of feels kind of like Quadropolis in terms you have a grid of tiles, and you're placing your meeple, and you basically can activate one thing in that row, but if you have any buildings down in that row, you can activate, you get more resources based off of how many buildings you have there. It's really, really cool. And then there's all these different, there's like 5 different parts of the board that you can work on. It's like a caravan. You can build a mosque. You can kind of like expand your city even. You can work in like the palace essentially. Yeah. All these different parts. You kind of can't do everything, so you have to kind of specialize a little bit, which I always really like in games. Yeah. And it is, oh my gosh, it's fun. It's really cool. Liked Murph a lot.
Yeah, what else we got?
We got New Frontiers. You finally got to show me New Frontiers.
I did.
I liked New Frontiers a lot. It's kind of like Puerto Rico in space in a way.
Which is better than
where
Puerto
you
Rico.
choose an action and then everyone else gets to follow that action, but they get a lesser version of it. It's really, really cool. We play it digitally, and I can never really tell how much I like a game digitally.
Sure.
So I'm really excited to play it physically, but I did like it a lot, and I think I'm really gonna like it when I can physically handle stuff and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
really,
cool.
really good game. We played the Red Cathedral with our good friends Paula and Matthew.
We did. You're using these dice to kind of move around this little rondelle to ultimately gain resources and do different things to kind of build up parts of the Red Cathedral in Russia. And you kind of want to have like built the most sections of each spire. Each column, there's kind of an area majority at the end of the game for that. And it's a really kind of interesting game with the way the dice kind of work, and you can get these bonuses every time the yellow dice moves. You get to trigger this thing or whatever. So it becomes really interesting and kind of puzzly with how you manipulate all these dice that are moving around the rondelle. And if you go to an area that has 2 other dice, for example, whatever that bonus is, whether it be money or whatever, it's going to be multiplied times 3.
Yeah.
So there's some kind of interesting stuff there as well. Really cool game.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. We kind of already talked about it, but one thing we'll talk about again is we played a lot of Unmatched as well. But the new Unmatched that came out this month that we played was the Beowulf versus Little Red Riding Hood pack, which was
cool.
super, super fun. Beowulf versus Little Red, really, really interesting. Both those characters are kind of slightly more advanced characters, but not like so much where it's also like you can't start with these characters. Yeah. You can, but they got a little bit more going on. Really, really fun. They work well against everyone else too. Very, very cool. That's everything that's on my list that wasn't already on this list.
Oh snap, let me check here. Got that. I played It's a Wonderful World. It's a drafting game. It's really super cool. People talked about it's kind of like a Splendor, Century Spice Road-ish thing, and it is. You're building out these, you're drafting out these cards and stuff and playing them out, which are going to give you different types of resources and stuff like that, and you kind of start getting bigger and bigger fun combos of things as you build up. It was really interesting. I really want to play it again, but there's basically, you carry out these cards and stuff in this order to get different types of resources. So you're kind of trying to maximize everything, but it's a really neat game. I really liked It's a Wonderful World. Need to play it again so I can explain it better, so apologies there. I played some Lorenzo Il Magnifico.
That's
which came
right.
out on Steam. Which I've been wanting to try again. I played it once physically a long time ago. This is an interesting game where you have dice that you roll out, your family of dice, that you're going to then put in these different parts of a tower to collect territories, to get these characters, which will give you abilities that will boost up different types of things. You get these yellow buildings, which are a production element. Or you can go on these ventures, which are going to be straight up points. You're trying to get faith so you can keep the Pope happy, or maybe not make the Pope happy and get excommunicated, but be able to make the Pope happy later. Bunch of stuff to do, but it's also kind of dependent on how your dice roll out and what you can do. It's a tight game. Everything's expensive and it's kind of tough, but I really enjoyed it. Lorenzo El Magnifico.
Nice.
And I played Marco Polo 2 in the Service of the Con again, which
Great
we've
game.
talked about before during other Rapid reviews. Super fun game. It's kind of a spiritual successor to Marco Polo. It is very much its own thing, but very much based on Marco Polo.
Yeah.
Just everything is familiar, but a little bit different.
Very much
here.
the same game and very much not the same game.
Yeah,
It's
you're
good
trying to
too.
fulfill
Yeah.
contracts. You're trying to move your little person around using camels and money. Everything's tight. Everyone has broken player powers.
It's real fun.
Marco Polo 2 is really cool. And then that's it.
That's it.
That's all the different stuff.
Alrighty, all right, that's it then. I think I tried to count. I think that's 216
216
reviews. I think.
Reviews.
I think somewhere
And
in
just
there.
A little over 3 hours. Okay.
A little over 3 hours. A little over 3 hours, I think.
You'll
but
see whatever the time says. That's
that's
how long it
not
took.
bad. That's not bad. Thank you for getting through all of that. That we tried to go as quick as possible while still talking about the game, not just being like good, bad, because that would get
Leave it up
old
for
after a
video.
while. Yeah, except for you should all thumb up this video.
Please
but
do,
thank you
thumb it up
so
right
much
now.
for being here. At the end of every Rapid Reviews, we always do have reviews at the end of the month, or the very beginning of the next month. So we talk about all the patrons we got in the last month, because Patreon allows us to do this, which is super,
We're able
super
to
cool.
basically take off 2 weeks of work to do a weird marathon because we have
We
really
had
supportive
patrons. Yeah, so it's like, thank you so much, people who support us on Patreon. If you're interested on Patreon, check out the link in the description below. But we're going to shout out the new people we got. Mikey, we got Diana Davenport.
Yes.
We got Tamara Von Heel.
Yeah.
We got Joe and Kathleen.
Yes.
We got Gabriel Landon.
Yes.
We got Josh Rowling.
Yes.
We got Daniel Lucas.
Yes.
Ryan Easterling.
Yes.
Kristen Hansen.
Yes.
Abe Vanderbent.
What?
Jeff Kaufman.
Yes.
Geef C.
Yep.
And Chad Troop.
Uh-huh.
And we got some increases as well. Thank you
Thank you,
all
everybody.
so much. We are, actually, the day this is coming out, we're in the middle of Bing Bong Con.
Bing Bong
which
Con.
is an
Join
online
us.
little, we're going to be streaming for 12 hours straight. So if you're watching this, come over. We're on Twitch
literally-
right now.
Yeah, you probably
Like,
missed
literally
3 hours of it by watching this.
A
But
little
watch,
bit.
Come join us right now.
But
We're
nonetheless,
live.
that was a goal unlocked by our Patreon. We have to get bus stop ads now because that was a goal unlocked by our Patreon. There's a lot of weird stuff. Go check it out. But nonetheless, thank you for being here. We're done.
We're out of here. We've taken up
It's
enough
a long
time.
video. I'm tired
Hopefully-
of talking. My hair is
Your
tired.
hair is just tired now.
It's just lank.
Thank you for joining us for our what will probably be our most epic Rapid reviews for some time.
Yeah, probably.
Let us know what you think of
Hope
all the
so.
games we played. If you like or hate any
Go
of them,
through all of them and let us
go
know.
through all of them one by one. Give us your opinion. And
But
let
do
us
it in
know-
a separate comment so we hit that algorithm.
Let us
maybe.
know in December if you got any games that you liked. Check them. Let us know if you checked out some new games or whatever played. Let us know what you've been playing in the comments below.
Yeah.
And until next time, I'm Mike.
I'm Nick.
We're the Brothers Murph, and we out of here.
Bye, everybody.
That was rapid, right?
Yeah.
It's rapid-ish.
Thank you so much for watching that very long, but kind of quick. It's both long and fast.
Long and
you know what I mean?
We got a lot done.
Yeah, you know. Thank you so much for watching that Rapid Reviews. You want to check out the marathon video that we talked about a lot in this video because we were reviewing everything. Check out that video up there. And that video down there is going to be our top 100 games. A lot of these games showed up on our top 100
like them a
games.
bit.
So check out that video as well. While you're here, give us a thumbs up, please. Give us a subscribe, please. Please share. Please. I turned into a little troll there. I don't know why.
Please subscribe to me. Please.